Howdy, everyone. Today is Tuesday, June 4th, 2022. The time is 5:31 p.m. We're here for the regular session of the Coppell City Council. There is a quorum present, so I'm calling the meeting to order. We will be convening into executive session in the first floor conference room. And before we do that, I would request that we also go into executive session pursuant to Section 5.551.071 to seek advice from the city attorney regarding the workshop agenda item 3D on the proposed amendments to the sign portion of the zoning ordinance. At the conclusion of our executive session, I will come back out and announce that our work session is open and the public will be invited to join us at that point. Thank you very much. Good afternoon. The time is 5:51 p.m. We're convening into work session. We've got a fairly large number of items to go through, and I'm not sure exactly how much discussion we're going to have on those, so please bear with us. The first item is a discussion regarding the agenda. I do have a couple of things that are going to impact that on the consent agenda. Under 9E, the date of June 17th is changing to August 1st, 2022 at the request of Encore. And then we will, this is going to get complicated, we're going to be discussing our boards and commissions under item E. But as a result of that discussion, I'm going to recommend that we pull item number 10 from the regular agenda from tonight's discussion and move that back to July. The wording on our agenda item precludes us from taking some action that I think the board is going to want to take, or the council is going to take. Excuse me. Any other questions on the agenda? We'll get into the boards and commissions discussion with Ashley in a moment. Don?
On that consent item E.
Sorry. I thought we were having a voice from somewhere else come in there.
It's just my dominating voice. So the effect of this,
the door to the council chambers.
The effect of E, so it puts it off for 90 days or for however long. What will we be doing during that time? I mean, will we be evaluating their rate increase, or what, I guess what could we expect at the end of the 90 days or during that process?
If you wanna, yeah.
Sure, this is consent item E, this is the one about the Encore evaluation. So I understand what we're doing, we're delaying it for 90 days or however long we can by law. But then what goes on during that 90 days, or what should we expect during that time or at the end, or what sort of, I guess, the
Give the
expectation?
attorneys that are examining the case more time to go through the files and make sure that everything is in place and in regular, and if there's anything that they need to bring forward to change in that case.
Okay.
So it just extends the amount of time that they have.
Okay.
And I think Bob would like to
If
say
you're
something.
familiar with rate making, you know, you capitalize and the cost, the
Right.
cost of delivery of the system, the infrastructure of the system, the plant and all that, that always gets fluffed.
Okay,
Because they use that to set the rate. And so what the attorneys do is they go through and audit all those costs and say, hey, you undervalued or overvalued this in order to inflate the rate. So they all hire expert, they go in and review the rate application and look at all the components to decide whether something's overvalued or undervalued. They end up reaching an agreement, and then they pay our attorney's fees as part of making them go through that exercise.
so is this something you go through, or
No,
they have a
we
team?
hire Lloyd Gosling. They have been Encore, the steering committee's lawyers for as long as I can remember,
Okay,
and they do all that in Austin.
okay,
It's
so they
really
will,
cost effective.
so they'll come back, they'll have some recommendation or
They'll have a
something at the end.
recommendation, and then we'll pass that rate, and then Encore will turn around and file a new rate application immediately after.
Okay, all right,
And we'll
just,
be back here to talk to you about this again.
okay, well, that's just clarification what happens during that time period. That's all I had.
Kevin?
I had a question about consent item 9B. I was wondering who were the council members who approved the
Smart City Board?
the appointment and then the alternate. I was just curious who that was.
If I may, it was Councilmember Dawn Carroll and Councilmember, Mayor Pro Tem BJ Mack.
Right, excellent. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Always. Always. As soon as your name came over.
Anybody have anything else? All right, going to move on then to item B, which is a discussion regarding a request from the Coppell Historical Society to donate a home to be placed in Heritage Park. Goodbye, Councilmember Long.
To the kitchen.
Kitchen? Going further than the kitchen.
Oh, I was looking for
You can
you.
go wherever you
Hello.
want.
Hang
I was panicking. I thought you weren't out there.
I'm still here.
That's fine.
We don't want to be able to see or hear you. You can see or hear them.
Justin,
Take control.
you've got it.
Perfect. All right, so good evening, Mayor and Council. Jessica Carpenter, Director of Parks and Recreation, and I'm here tonight to provide you, sorry.
We can't talk
I gotta have something to do.
I don't want to start that.
So I'm here this evening to provide you an update regarding the Historical Society's request to relocate a house from 532 South Coppell Road to Heritage Park for the intended future use as a visitor center. So during my last presentation on this request back in April, Council expressed desire for more information on estimated costs to take possession of the house. And so I'll be providing you that overview this evening. Also, the purpose of this presentation is really to provide you with the costs and some additional detail in advance of the service organization presentation on Thursday evening by the Historical Society. So as a reminder, the house is currently located here at 532 South Coppell Road. As referenced in the memo, we are not able to verify the actual age of the home at this time. There are different dates of construction referenced on different documents. According to a historic resource survey conducted in 2009, the house was built circa 1910. However, Dallas County documents state that the house was built in 1905. There have been other dates of construction that have been discussed that are different than both of those, but nothing can be confirmed at this time. So the proposed new location for that house is here in Heritage Park, located at 700 South Coppell Road. So the intended location there is in the red circle just south of the Infeld house. And again, the proposed future use for the new property would be as a visitor center, which would be operated by the Coppell Historical Society. So here are some of our estimated costs. So kind of point to the left side of the screen first. So these are the estimated costs associated with the city taking possession of the house. So some of these costs are one-time costs here on the left, and then we're going to be looking at some annual recurring costs on the right. That would then become part of the city's ongoing responsibility. So beginning with the one-time cost, that's just to get the house physically onto our property and so that we can take possession. The first one would be we would need to enter into an agreement with an architect who would oversee the house move to ensure the property would fit on the intended site, and that fee is $3,000. And as you will recall from my previous presentation, the Historical Society has offered to donate the home and has verbally stated that they will pay to actually move the house onto the site. So potentially that $30,000 number would not be incurred by the city, and that would be donated by the Historical Society, but I wanted to make sure that that was reflected here. The house will then need to be placed on a concrete foundation. We received a quote for $30,000 there. We would need to establish initial water sewer connections. That is an estimated cost of around $60,000. The house would need to be retrofitted with an ADA ramp at minimum, potentially more ADA improvements, similar to the one currently installed at the Infeld house for a cost of $15,000. And then because there are really so many unknowns with moving a property potentially of this age and really unknown condition, we have added a 30% contingency to this project. This could potentially cover any additional interior or exterior improvements. This could also cover potential additional work that needs to be done to the site, tree trimming, relocating of utilities, power lines, etc. So 30% there. So less the cost of the donation by the Historical Society, the city's estimated responsibility to get the house established on the property would be $149,400. And then on the right-hand side, there are some of our annual costs to add the property to our monthly utilities would be about $300, really negligible cost there. Insurance covered through TML would be about $1,000 for that property. General estimate for just ongoing maintenance to add the property onto our normal maintenance schedule with painting, inspections, things like that, $7,500. And then I've also included $104,000 for staff costs. So you'll receive much more information about this during the Historical Society's grant presentation on Thursday evening, but I wanted to make sure this was reflected here. Since the intended use is a visitor center, the Historical Society is requesting to staff this building. Those annual costs would be $104,000. So total estimated annual responsibility would be $112,800. So again, this evening was to provide council with more information in advance of Thursday's presentation. Should council still desire to accept the property for its intended future use as a visitor center, the next steps there would be that we would begin to coordinate and enter into an agreement with the architect. We've already had conversations with the architect, so we would enter into a formal agreement. And then we would continue to work with the Historical Society on securing the donation of the cost to physically move the property. Happy to answer any questions that you have.
John?
Hey, Mayor. Hey, so forgive me for not being knowledgeable about this matter, but like, what's the benefit of moving this house to there, and how much of a visits do we get throughout the year? I'm trying to see what the offset, what's the benefit of spending, I guess that's a fixed cost, right, $113,000 a year moving forward?
So I think the reason why we're presenting this tonight is because we aren't asking for you to say yay or nay.
No, I'm
But
just trying
Thursday
to-
night, it's really, we don't have that information.
Okay.
It's the proposal by the Historical Society. I can't, you can look at their application, but those are really questions you need to ask them.
I didn't know she doesn't have them.
No.
I asked her.
I mean, the questions I were wanting to ask was, what's the purpose? What are we doing with it? Was it part of our plan? Which I think the answer is no to that. Is that correct?
Part of our plan for
Heritage Park.
Heritage Park?
no.
So, I mean, I think these, like Mike's saying, these are questions that we need to ask on Thursday.
Should we ask the questions in advance so they will have the answers rather than saying, we'll get back to you?
That's not a bad thing.
I mean, just the question you ask, just, they need to be prepared. How many visitors are there?
Yeah, I'd like to see what the return
Yeah.
is, having that fixed cost going forward.
Be happy to get those questions to her in advance.
Bijou?
I was gonna ask the similar question, that the staff cost, 194,000. We don't have the details, right? That's what you're saying.
I think,
Are we gonna,
Jessica, you
Right.
estimate, what is
Yeah.
that, a person and a half?
That's one full-time person and 2 part-time folks.
But we don't know what for.
Yeah, that will be included in, I believe, her presentation.
It's in her presentation. If you go to that folder before Thursday night, see what's there.
okay, then I'll wait.
And if you want to send us, if you have some questions as a result of reviewing that again, please send it to us and we'll get it to
Yeah, but
Chris.
you just answered 1 full-time and 2 part-time.
Sorry, is that for that particular house, so there's additional staff for other houses or other buildings, or is just this one?
Not to our knowledge, the staff cost would be just reflective of the property that will be used as a visitor center, which is 532 South Coppell.
Don?
This may be a question for Thursday, but you talked about the age of the house. You said 1905 or 1910, or a couple dates. Had I heard there was potentially even another age, like as late as the 40s or something like
Correct.
that? So, I mean, and this may not be a question for you, but is there, I guess I'm curious about the significance of the house from a historical standpoint. Is that a question for them?
That could be. I can provide you, so the historic survey that we conducted, or the Historical Society conducted in 2009, the property in question was referenced in that survey. So it wasn't necessarily listed as a historical property, it just was listed as, it had significance due to its age in the community at that time. But what that survey also does further clarify is what qualifies as a historic property or a property that has historic value. And so if council desires to have that, we can send that your way as well if that helps.
Well, this may be way ahead. I'm just trying to think of it if it's just an old house, you know,
Right.
you know, how it fits into Heritage Park, I guess, might be a question. But that, I'll hold my question until the bigger presentation.
You said there was a folder.
It's the Thursday night, there should be a folder out there that has their applications.
That's our disorganization.
Yeah, they would have done
So construction techniques change significantly. Mark, this may be a question for you, but wouldn't you be able to get an idea of whether 1910 or 1940 by construction techniques?
Possibly, but I mean, you're talking rural Texas, you know?
Right. I know originally, like, anything electrical would have the old rotary switches back in 1905.
Right,
I mean, if it's been remodeled, then you can't tell.
yeah, exactly. I think
Do you know if a survey has been done on the house?
I do not know. Just in looking on DCAD, you can see when there was improvements made to the house, you can see when the current owner took possession of the house back in 1984, and there's really not a lot of information prior to that.
Okay.
But DCAD does list the house as 1905, so.
Kevin?
Oh, no, I was just telling Don I was 1 year old.
He's just talking.
There it is.
Let's move on, Mayor.
You just left yourself way too open on that one.
Yes, sir.
He's bogging us down.
All right, anybody have anything else for Jessica? Do get your questions back to Mike so that we can pass them along to the Heritage Society so that they can at least be prepared to answer whatever you might be wanting to know about.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, item C is an update on ARP funding and business support programs. Ms. Hurley and Ms. Leach. Oh, and Mr. Long.
We had a brief
No, he's got
How Huh?
Do I have to leave?
Oh,
I've been told we've
I
been
don't think
booted.
Cliff can stay either because they were gonna talk about any sort of extension or expansion.
So this isn't a report, it's gonna be a discussion?
It's a report with potential discussion.
Understood.
Oh, now he's back out again.
Further back out there.
You want another chair, you want a fixed chair? You're just gonna
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I am here tonight to provide an update on the 2 business support grants that were designed to assist small businesses in Coppell. And since the last presentation on April 12th, one of the grant programs has been administered to the businesses and the other has not. The first program which has been administered is the Business Rent Mortgage Assistance Grant Program. Just as kind of a reminder, you all dedicated $650,000 from ARPA funds to fund this program. The grants were $10,000 grants to the businesses, which mean there could only be a maximum of 65 businesses that would receive grants. Businesses had to qualify as a small business. They had to have a physical storefront in the city, be in compliance with all codes and ordinances, not be in litigation with the city, and attest that they had lost over $10,000 over the past 2 years to be eligible to apply and to receive the grant. Letters were mailed to all the businesses in early May, and then the application went live at 10 a.m. on May 31st. And we waited that amount of time in order to ensure that every business received their letter and had equal opportunity to apply for the grant when it opened. 65 applications were received by June 1st. Staff did verify that all 65 businesses were eligible to receive the grant. However, by the time we could do that, we had already received 83 applications before we removed the link to that application. After the link was removed, we did receive numerous calls and emails inquiring about the grant, expressing a desire to apply if additional funds were available for the grant. All 83 businesses, and I say 83, we actually did have some duplicate applications, so there were actually only, I think, 79 applications that were not duplicates.
is that 79 total or 79 in additional to the 65?
79 total.
Thank
Because
you.
we cut off the application.
Thank you.
So the 79 businesses have now been notified if they receive the grant or not, and those that receive a grant have additional paperwork that they have to fill out. And their grant paperwork will be processed in the next available, the grant payment will be processed in the next available check run after the paperwork is received. I have received numerous calls and emails from businesses inquiring if council will allocate additional funds for another round of the grant. I believe you all have received some of those emails and phone calls as well. But at this time, all of the previously allocated funds have been depleted. So that's the first grant. The second grant program is the Revenue Recovery Assistance Grant Program. This program is designed to assist businesses that are impacted by the reconstruction of South Beltline Road. The grants are for retail, restaurant, and personal service businesses that rely on drive-by traffic and drop-in customers and are therefore impacted by the construction. The final list of businesses that are eligible to apply for the grant will be available at the time that the grant application is released. However, we did bring the list of eligible businesses tonight. I will pass this around or give you all a copy. It's very small, so I apologize in advance, but we wanted to run this list by you first just to make sure that y'all agreed with what we have determined as eligible and those that we've determined are not eligible. So I'm going to go through, I won't go through each business, but I'm going to kind of go through the broad categories so you have an idea. So we've got apparel services, educational services, fitness and health, pet grooming, pharmacy, salon services, storage, vehicle services, and then your traditional restaurant and retail. The traditional restaurant and retail, we think, are easy to determine that those should be eligible. But we do have a few examples of some that fall in for example, the educational services or the fitness and health that we believe should be included, but we want to make sure that you all agree that they should be included. So for example, places like Code Ninja or some of our exercise facilities, many of those require a membership and or an appointment, but they also take drop-in customers. So really our question tonight is, are you okay with those being included on the list of businesses that are eligible? Now at the same time, I've got a list of businesses that aren't eligible, and again, I'm going to go through kind of the broad category, so we can discuss those too in case any of those you want to move to eligible. I apologize, it's actually 2 pages. So but the broad categories are banks, financial planning, title companies, chiropractors, dental offices, dermatology, family medicine, lab services, medical specialist, pediatric medicine, psychiatric, radiology services, rehab centers, speech therapy, surgical centers, so medical, I'll just do a big medical, construction, consulting, IT services, insurance, law firms, real estate, distribution facilities, manufacturing, logistics. So those we believe are reliant less on drop-in traffic and more on appointments. Those aren't things that you would just drop in order to utilize their services. So I'll keep going, but those we do want to make sure that y'all are okay with what we have determined as eligible and ineligible. So just kind of a reminder about the Revenue Recovery Assistance Grant. This will be a one-time grant. There will be a maximum grant of $5,000. $100,000 has been dedicated from ARPA funds to fund this program. Businesses must attest they have lost $5,000 or more due to the road construction. And as you all stated, we are giving priority to those located directly in the construction zone by giving them access to the application first. So letters will be mailed to all eligible businesses in early July. The application will open to businesses located in the construction zone only on July 25th. And then applications will open to all other eligible businesses on August 8th. Any application received on August 8th or later will be considered on a first-come, first-served basis. And then again, we'll have a continuous call for applications until funds are depleted or reallocated. And so again, this is before you, well, I'm sorry, you can see that the strip, it's hard to see, but the strip in purple is the stretch of road that those businesses will be given first priority. They'll receive their application on July 25th, and then it stretches up to, through the red up to Sandy Lake Road, and it will open up to those on August 8th. Oh, sorry, Ashley. Okay. So total, we have 82 businesses. There are 12 that fall between Southwestern Boulevard and 635, and then there are 70 that fall between Sandy Lake Road and Southwestern Boulevard. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions. We did bring that list of eligibility tonight because we won't have another council meeting prior to the letters going out in July. If y'all want more time to consider the businesses that are eligible, we can certainly push back our schedule, but that is the schedule that we've outlined as of right now. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
How long was the link up to accept applications?
We took it down on August 2nd. I'm sorry, not August 2nd, June 2nd. So it went live at 10 a.m. on May 31st. We actually hit 65 applications on June 1st, but we didn't have time to get all of them verified by that time, so we wait. As soon as we were able to verify all of them, we took the link down, which was on June 2nd. So there was a quick and overwhelming response this time.
Bijou?
Thank you, Mayor. Mandy, question for you. Just want to go back since COVID started. We offered, through the CARES grants, we had the restaurant assistant grants.
Yes, sir.
Second, the business retrofit grants. Third, the rent mortgage assistance, right?
Yes, sir.
So those are the 3 grants that we offered to the small business from the CARES grant. Now from the ARPA grant, we have $5 million we have from the federal government, $5 million, correct?
10.2.
10.2.
So it's total is 10.2.
10.2.
This is the first time we are offering grants from that 10.2 million, correct?
Yes, sir.
And do we have any allocation from those restaurant assistants and business retrofit grants and rent mortgage assistance, any money left over from that grant?
No, sir. At the time that we closed out that program, City Council decided to reallocate the funds that were left to other programs. So we spent total on grants for CARES, we spent $1,099,089.63 on those 3 grant programs. But we were originally allocated $1.65 million. So that remainder was reallocated to other programs through CARES.
Any opinion on why the response rate has been so much higher this time around?
Louis and I were actually discussing this. During the time that CARES was going through, I think people, because it was the first time that funds were offered, people were a little hesitant. They didn't know exactly what was going to happen with those federal dollars, if they'd be asked to pay them back or not. In addition to that, there were other revenue sources at the time. They had PPP loans that they could apply for, so there were other avenues for them to get funds during that time. And those don't exist today, so I think that's why there has been such a response to the ARPA funds.
Don?
Clarification on, or remind me, to qualify to use the ARPA funds, is that why we tied it just to the rent mortgage relief? Is there some stipulation that made that type of support qualified? And where I was sort of going, I mean, you know, there are businesses in town that may not have rent mortgage direct expense that may have wanted some support, like home businesses or something. But was there some stipulation to tie it to the ARPA funds? Does that make sense? To make it qualify?
Sure, it was economic development, which is something that we currently did we did prior to the ARPA funds being released, so that made it an eligible classification. I'm looking over your shoulder at Kim and Vanessa just to make sure I'm saying that correctly, but that is why we tied it. And again, you're correct. The home-based businesses, the reason it wasn't extended to them is because they aren't paying rent or mortgage. I understand they are for their home, but not specifically for their business.
No direct expense. Okay. I was making sure, to qualify for ARPA, did we have to tie to rent or mortgage relief, or could it be any relief, any kind of economic relief?
It could have been to offset the negative impact of COVID.
Okay.
We're tying it to rent, but I know.
I got it. Okay, that's just what I just wanted to clarify that. Okay, thanks.
So, Mindy, I agree with your list of exclusions. They don't rely on foot traffic. It's, appointments or other types of businesses. And when I use that same type of logic, when I look at the educational services, those are places that you just don't drop in. I mean, you're scheduled for a class, people go there, so, I mean, I would exclude those along with the fitness. You just don't drop into your health club and work out. And, you're a member there, new members, they know these businesses are there, and they can go seek them out, especially at the times where there's less traffic, like on the weekends. So I would exclude those. That's just me.
I don't disagree with that logic. I want to make sure that all those health and fitness places don't have drop-in business, though. I thought some of the massage type places.
Well, yeah, that's why I only said fitness, not
just the fitness.
Not health.
Okay.
I mean, like the
ones
massage
you'd have
places, you can
membership
go
at.
and drop in and get a massage
Right.
if they have someone available.
Okay, I just didn't want to scoop up too much,
Yeah.
too broad a net if we start excluding it.
So I'm not exactly clear what you're asking then.
Well, I'm talking about the workout places.
Right.
9 round, bar 3, Coppell Taekwondo, CrossFit. I don't know Cryo Coppell, but Fit 5 to 9, Johnny's performance training. It's a personal trainer, and you have to have an appointment. I don't know Infused in, so I couldn't be making an intelligent decision on that. And for that matter, Splash and Dash, I don't know if you've ever tried to get an appointment there, but you have to book way in advance. You just don't drop off your dog or your cat to get services done. And I don't see that group that I mentioned is impacted by foot traffic or car traffic. People seek these out, they make appointments, they're members, they know where to go.
I was going through my mind, I understand what you're saying about the ones where you have to make appointments, I'm just not sure. Like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna use a bad example, haircut place. You know, I make an appointment, but they also accept walk-ins, so how do you handle that one?
Well, I would say you would leave it on the list of acceptable because they do take drop-ins and
We did look through the list, so we looked at the educational services, and all of those included on here actually did also take drop-ins, which is why we included them on here. But you could also schedule an appointment. So that's where, I was saying, that's where we feel like there's a little bit of a gray area on those.
So all of these do accept drop-ins or walk-ins?
That's, from what our research is, that is what we believe.
Well, so I'm gonna agree with Mark, what he's talking about, like the educational center. You have to actually subscribe monthly basis, and you make the appointment to get to a certain time, but you are actually paying monthly on a monthly basis. So it's not like you drop in and you just get it for that day. You actually pay for the monthly service, so you're making an appointment on certain days. So yeah, it's not, you can't just drop in and say, I want to get some lessons today.
yeah, you're not dropping Johnny off just for an hour, just randomly.
Right. So, yeah, those are not just,
But you might go get your oil change just randomly when you're driving down
Sure.
the street. Hey,
Okay. That provides clarification that we were asking, so that's.
but I'm only one person, so you got a lot of other.
Well, I'm probably struggling with, because unless we bump it up to $400,000 and all 82 businesses get it, I'm concerned it's going to get hard to get surgical with this, like what we're trying to do. Because I'd go a step further. Is 7-Eleven a corporate-owned store by chance?
Yes, I believe that one is a corporate.
So, not trying to pick on them, but just using that as an example, if it was a corporate-owned store, I might, want to get surgical about that also, because it's not a Coppell small business setup. But once again, I feel like we're getting really, really surgical with the program, so I don't know what the best solution, is it just you set up, if we decide to do a bigger allocation or something, and when the funds are depleted, is that the way we need to go, or? I hate when government picks winners and losers, which always sort of happens anyway, but the more surgical you get, the more of that you have. Does that make sense at all? I do think we should consider increasing the amount of this program. Because what, we got 20, we got enough for 20 businesses, and we got 82 on the list. I suspect we will be in a similar situation once this program goes live, wouldn't you think? I mean, I would think we're gonna run out of the 20 pretty quick.
I was wondering if there was any interest in increasing the other one.
Well, we keep flip-flopping, but I would agree. I was gonna,
Yeah,
interested in doing that one also, but once again, I think you have sort of the same, you know, we have a scarcity of funds, and so how do you best, what's the best?
So I think Tracy's going to touch on that a little bit, if y'all want to listen to her.
Beach, you had a question.
Oh, I'm
before we do that.
Yeah, so my take is this, we have $10.2 million available to spend. And we have number of businesses already calling you who did not complete the application, correct?
They could not because we removed the application link, yes, sir.
So I'm in favor of increasing from 650 to whatever the amount is to accommodate everybody is calling you and so on and so forth, but we need to support them because it's a small business. So I don't know if it's $200,000 we need to increase or 300,000, I don't know the amount. So I'm in favor of increasing that grant as well as the second grant we are talking about. And
She knows she's already got 14 that did submit applications before the date, before the
expired.
before the second day came up. So you know you have at least 14.
Right.
I think we got 500,000 easily.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, 10,000 each, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
That's what we gave this
Or at
last
least
time.
500,000,
So half a million, yeah.
And I,
easily.
What's the maximum that you anticipate if we were to?
Yeah, we don't.
Yeah, I have no idea.
'Cause I mean,
Again,
we could be doing this on again, right?
and we removed it so we didn't continue to give people false hope, thinking that there was still funds available. But it's hard to know what the continued response would have been since we did remove it. So I don't know the answer to how many we think we'll get.
And your analysis is done by your staff that there are people dropping in these educational places as well, correct?
What we found is that they took drop-ins, but I understand the statement that, and that's, we were just talking about, we probably need to remove the category rather than picking individual businesses to remove. So, but that would put us with 7-Eleven, then that would remove all other gas stations or convenience
Right.
stores. So, but it's probably more equitable if we just remove the category rather than individual businesses.
I'd be curious, had you run some numbers on the ARPA funds? Is that what?
I do have an update just to, so the numbers are gonna look very similar, but we do have some, I do wanna call your attention to a couple projects that we can talk about that provide you all with some flexibility if there is a desire to allocate additional funds to the two business support programs. So,
Okay, so this spreadsheet will look very familiar to the spreadsheets that we discussed at the last meeting. It has been updated, if you'll look at band number 6 at the bottom, it has been updated to reflect the projects that council added at our last briefing. So Howell and Bullock and our utility billing credit for our over 65 residents have been added to this list, as well as the pavement replacement at Creekview, the entryway, and the fiber expansion. So the projects that I do want to bring your attention to that do provide a little bit of flexibility, because they're projects that either have not gotten underway in terms of the staff either moving forward on procurement efforts to go ahead and move forward to implement the project, or that we have gone back through and identified potential alternative funding that would allow us to free up the ARP money here and still be able to move forward with the project that was identified in the list. So the projects that I want to bring your attention to, so pop-up business support is an item that from a staff perspective, we still like a lot.
So that wouldn't be our first recommendation in terms of eliminating, but it is an item that we have not yet begun work to develop a program around to support this item. The other item is the Howell and Bullock Drainage Project, and so that one is budgeted at $2 million. In conversations with Kent Collins, Director of Public Works, and our finance team, we have identified that in looking at our long-range plan for the IMF fund, we believe that we can shift Southwestern, which was budgeted at 1.9 for fiscal year 23. I'm sorry, not fiscal 23, fiscal 24. We can push that out, substitute Howell and Bullock to be funded out of IMF, which would then free up some additional funds to allocate towards the business support programs that you are considering this evening. The reason why we are able to do that with Southwestern, we would still continue to move forward with Southwestern, but our plans from a staging standpoint, we need to get through South Beltline first, then we need to get through Royal before we attack Southwestern. And so we do have just a minute on both of those projects before we would be able to go ahead and pull the go-ahead on Southwestern. So that's the update for the council in terms of where we are and where we might have some flexibility. And so I'll be happy to answer any questions about what you're seeing on your spreadsheet. And I guess if you have other questions on the business, I can call Mandy back up. Yes.
Tracy, it's been a minute. Can you
Yes.
remind me the pop-up business support? I can't remember the concept.
So that's the concept where we would have retail space that would, we would be working with either, you can contract with a third party to help you attract, what Harry Styles just had the pop-up retail a couple weeks ago downtown. And so it's literally, it pops up for a weekend, or it can be there for, 2 or 3 months to prove a concept. Let's say, for example, a restaurant. And so you would give small businesses and startup businesses an opportunity to have some space, try a concept out, or it would be kind of one of those proven pop-ups where you're bringing in something that people know and you're bringing people to the community, to a space that's already there.
So could we utilize some business development funds for that instead? Because I'm concerned about the people who are in business now and trying to get them over this hump. I know we're getting back to.
We certainly have the funding set aside that is usable at your discretion. So to answer your question,
Can't remember how much we have, but I thought it was a decent.
If you're talking about on the fund balance side, it's a little over $1 million. Because y'all set aside for economic development and the fund balance sheet. But let me just say this, you have complete flexibility in this. If you
Yes,
tell us
exactly.
this is what we want to do, we're gonna say,
well, I mean, there's other things that we could do as well. I mean, I think the message I'm hearing from them is that the funding is available if we want to make it available.
Right.
Like, for example, item number 5, the fire station repairs, that could very easily be rolled into, a future fire station funding as well. So, I'm sorry, I'm pulling things out of the air, Mike. I know that doesn't work well.
I'm thinking we just awarded a contract.
Well,
but-
that is one of the projects that we have already begun working towards procurement on.
That was the reason I was like, I'm thinking we committed to that.
Okay, well, maybe, well, anyway.
Underway.
But, the bottom line is, and we're in a very enviable position that we've got a lot of flexibility here. So sorry, Don, I like the idea of the Howell drainage. That does sound good to me. Don?
I was gonna agree, because you're talking about just shifting stuff around, really. Because is it correct that, the $2 million for that project, aren't we very, very, very early stages on what we would even
yes.
need to actually address that issue?
They had the meeting several weeks ago, and there's probably a hybrid that's gonna be selected, but there wasn't general consensus by everybody.
So it's still.
So we have some still neighborhood to work through.
Okay, so there's still, I could see if we have a slot where we could put that, you said fund that out of IMF?
Yes.
Is that right? And just
Yes.
bump Southwestern, basically just
We push that out.
delay that out to a
Right.
future date. And
Right.
I think that sounds like a good idea, because I would agree using these funds for, I mean, they were for the here and now, and I think that's a good use for it, instead of just earmarking these funds that we can fund somehow else later. We ought to just
So
reallocate that
I
money.
think I'm hearing a fairly consistent, yes, we need to provide additional funding. So I guess the question is, how much?
How much? Dare I say we just double it?
The whole thing, or?
750?
Put in another 750? I mean, that's not even the house. That is a possibility, yes.
I've really struggled with what the right number is, because I think, well, I don't know what the response is gonna be for sure, but
Well, I'm
I can
shocked
see
that,
it.
I'm shocked that it took one day to get the 65. I think that's a very good indicator of the need that's out there.
yeah, and I suspect the Beltline project, technically we've only funded a quarter of the possible businesses for that Beltline grant program. I suspect that one will disappear in no time also, so.
Well, remember, they're south of Southwestern, there are 12 businesses directly impacted. So let's just say they apply,
Mhm.
that would only be 8 businesses
North,
north of Southwestern.
oh yeah.
8 out of how many, 78?
She's got,
I-
there's multiple.
70.
Yeah, 8.
Mhm.
So anyway, so that one will actually go probably faster than, because your first priority is to those businesses.
May I ask you, do y'all have a recommendation about a number or anything? If we were, is there any educated guess on?
The response was much greater than what we expected on this first round, so, I mean, it's hard to know. I think we could definitely do another 650, but I can't guarantee that.
Sure.
And it could be that it's actually, we receive 83 more applications, and we don't have funds for all of those too. So it's hard to know.
Mhm. Okay.
Yeah.
I just don't want to be in the same spot again, looking at how much more do we fund? I mean, where does it end? And sorry, I missed it again, and so I don't want to be endless.
So what would the cost be if we funded every business that you've identified?
On this list, I mean, on the
big-
revenue recovery list? Sorry, so we eliminated some, so I'd have to go remove those. I mean, it's fitness, I'd have to go through and look. But let's say we were doing all 83 that were identified, and they're each getting $5,000, so we need
400,000.
Okay.
Were you talking about that one or the bigger
I
one?
was talking about the bigger one.
Oh.
That's a huge number, I'm assuming.
We have not identified. I mean, it's essentially every small business in town is eligible, except those that have
Yeah.
already received.
Yeah, there's 2 different issues there.
Yeah, I got you.
And you prioritize, if they got the money, the 10,000 over here, they don't necessarily
Get the 5
get the
over there.
5 over here because of the prioritization. Doesn't mean they can't, it just means the others got prioritized.
So I don't want to end up a month from now or 2 months from now
Or 2 weeks from now.
and find out, well, it's going to take a while to go
Well, yeah,
through.
for her to put it up, but
If we were to fund the business rent mortgage again, we would have to follow the same process where we send the letters and then wait to give the businesses time. We would make them aware that those
So-
that received it before are not eligible to receive it again.
so I think, well, initially, when we were trying to assist the business, it wasn't the idea that we're gonna go ahead and fund every business, right? And that's the reason why we talked about the need versus just, and if we're going down the road where we're gonna be coming back because some people have not gotten it or didn't have a chance or forgot or things of that nature, I think we just, I mean, what is it in? 2 million, 5 million? I mean,
When you run out of funds,
of the whole entire ARPA fund?
well, that's, no. 'Cause we got, some of it's allocated though, I mean, some of it, we've already got, we've got spent, so there's.
So,
Don?
I guess I will continue to plead, there seems to be such an overwhelming need or desire, I think it's, I think it's, not prudent is not the right word, but relevant to increase this at this point, to help out, because that's what these funds came in, this is not our fund balance or something, these funds came in
For this.
to help revenue recovery, or, so I think we should look at increasing it. And because of no other mathematics, I guess I would propose doubling what we've done so far.
I'm with you, Tom.
The 650.
And the one.
Well,
So
I might even
we
wonder,
haven't even done the 100,000.
So-
And I just want to make sure we're all clear that
Well,
we're walking away understanding what
sure.
the number is.
So,
well,
so what I'm hearing is, I think what Don is saying is, provide another $650,000 for the rent assistance, and then providing a total of $200,000 for the recovery.
Yeah, another 100 for them, so total
Yeah.
of 1.5.
and remind me, so how does the prioritization work? If they get the rent and mortgage grant, they aren't eligible for,
We did not make that prioritization. The prioritization was only about what's south of Southwestern,
Okay.
their first
so they could
priority.
get both if you're in that zone.
We did not specify last time that they couldn't receive both.
Okay.
Can we do it now?
Sure,
Yes.
absolutely. We have not administered, we haven't done anything with the revenue recovery, so we absolutely can add that in.
Well, I mean, the idea is you get the 10, then 5, right? Because that's 10 to first, it's a higher, larger number, and then if there's not enough on 5, then you can apply for that, right? That's the idea, thinking. But if the 10,000 comes again, those people that have gotten, they're not going to be eligible.
Correct.
But based on these numbers, you're saying 13 or 12 business
For the south.
eligible for that $5,000 grant?
There's 12 that are located
South
south of Southwestern,
Right.
so they will have first priority for,
That we made the decision.
yes.
And if they apply for the $10,000, so they can receive that too.
That's, I guess we need to decide tonight. We did
Oh,
not,
okay.
we did not say
We did
last
not
time
make a
that they
decision
couldn't
on that.
receive both, but if that's what y'all want, then we can certainly work that in.
Economic development hasn't actually gone into effect yet, just the rent assistance. So if we want to say that if you get the 10,000 for rental assistance, then you're not eligible for the construction, the $5,000, I think the caveat there is unless we don't give all the funding away.
Yeah.
I suspect that won't be the case, but quite honestly, I was not expecting the response to be this high. I thought we were gonna have funds left over.
Like last time.
Yeah,
The
I
response
would,
was just-
absolutely, because we struggled during COVID giving the funds away.
I'm actually the other way. I'm surprised that other time it didn't go as fast, and I'm not surprised that it went this
Well,
fast.
we were surprised too. We really were.
We didn't do any different marketing this time.
We did not mail a letter to every business during CARES. Yeah.
Okay, there is a difference. And what was the reason for that?
We were on a faster timeline with CARES, and that was just, we were relying on our usual communication sources. So there is a cost every time you mail a letter to every business. So that was not, we were not spending the funds for that at the time. But you all determined that y'all wanted us to mail a letter to every business this time, so.
Can we collect their email address this time? So that in future, if something grand like this, we can send a mass email?
We do, and we're working on getting email addresses for all of our businesses, but we don't necessarily have an email address for all of our businesses, so we could potentially be creating an issue where it's not equitable because some businesses did not get it if we were only doing it through email. But we are in the process of trying to get email addresses, we're just not getting responses from all the businesses.
So Lindsay, how many actual mail were mailed out?
I'm sorry.
How many mail letters did you actually mail out?
We use a third party to do it, and so I'll have to verify, but I think it's around 800, 900.
Yeah, I'll come back. That's a lot.
Yeah, so we're saying like 10%.
Yeah. So we could be doing this again.
Doing it again is better than not doing anything.
Well, I mean, if you want to put everything in there, then I mean, by all means, that's fine, but that's not the ideal situation that we're thinking about, so.
Then propose a number.
Initially, I thought we were gonna do this once, possibly twice. I didn't think that it was gonna go more than twice, but if that's the situation, then I would have thought differently about 10,000, maybe even reduce that number. But if we're gonna go twice, I think we need to set a number, set where we're not gonna keep doing this over and over. And that was part of the reason why we talked about the needs versus just making just available to whatever reason, right? So,
What's the cost of the third party that we hired sending out these letters?
All total, I think it costs us around $3,000 every time we do a mailing to a business.
It's pretty high.
and if we were to go ahead and fund this again, you'll be doing that again.
I mean, we can make that decision tonight, but if we assumed y'all would want to repeat that.
And how did we decide on the CARES fund? How did we select the business?
On who we gave the grants to?
Yeah. How did
it
they
w-
apply? I mean, what was the marketing process that we did to get their attention?
We did a presentation through the chamber. The chamber was pushing it out. We put it through all of our social media outlets. We had an ad in the newspaper. We made presentations at council. So those were just all of our typical outlets for communication.
You know, there's funds available to do basically everything that we're talking about. So, you know, the funding that came from the federal government is available. Like, I think Don said, it's not like it's coming out of our fund balance.
That's why I'm in favor of increasing.
With you.
Yeah.
What's your number?
500?
1,000?
Yeah.
Can you go 750?
Is that total or for?
You know that's gonna max out.
I know.
Quick.
But we gotta help the business.
Yeah.
Don?
Okay, well, since we're just talking about this, and to your point about not coming back to the well, try to get a number that we, sort of a final number. I might throw out, and let me back up. So the Beltline project, we're currently, we got 20 20 businesses that could take that grant
12.
out of,
12.
South of South.
Well, south of Beltline.
no,
Our
there's funding
funding.
for 20.
Right.
Oh, yes.
Right, eventually, and there's 80 on the list, so even if we double that, we only get half of the list. I figure we'll have, I guess I assume we'll have a bigger hit rate from that. So, I guess I would propose, at least to be considered, another 200,000 for that project. That just gets us to 300 total, right? So that's 60 of the 83 businesses that would be eligible. And then another 800 total for the other bucket, for $1 million total. With the idea of not coming back to the well again.
No mas.
Yep.
I would expand that and go up, and I agree with your 60 businesses, but I would use the rest of the $2 million on that.
So you're going even, so you're saying even more than I was saying. You're saying another $1 million.
Where is
more
the
than
2
I'm
million
saying.
you said?
It's from the
Hal and,
Howell and
Bullock.
Bullock Drainage Project.
Oh.
I was saying another $1 million total, above what we've already done. Did I understand, you were saying no mas, meaning you don't like that?
No, I was saying.
And then after that, oh, I thought you were
we get to
telling
that
me,
number, no,
you were
I mean,
telling me to shut
No,
up.
I'm saying at the, we
No
do
more after
it
that.
one more time, we set a number, and that's it.
Right. And then if they don't get used, we reallocate.
And yeah, and that, to the point, if it's not used, it's reallocated back into the list.
Oh, I believe it will be used.
You think it'll be used?
Oh, yeah.
So 2 million's another, did you calculate
Well,
it'd be another 1.8 million for the rent
it's
project.
200. Well, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I calculated that the 83 businesses that are the 800 businesses, if we were gonna hit all of them, would be $8 million.
$8 million?
Yeah, 800 times 10,000 is 8 million.
Oh, yeah, I got it.
So that was kind of my upper limit where that would be everybody, that would be, to your point, giving everybody the 10,000.
Yeah.
So one is basically 1/4 of that. Or a little bit less than that.
So you will use that full portion, the full 2 million. 2.75.
What do you think of?
So you could do that, with that 2 million, you could add the 200,000 in addition to the 100,000 to give the construction assistants a total of 300,000. That would catch 60 of the businesses. And then with the remainder, that would be 1.7 million, which would then address 170 additional businesses.
1.8 million actually, because 100 already.
You're right,
Allocated.
sorry, 1.8, that'd be 180 additional businesses.
In
Right.
addition to 65 that have already qualified.
Yes. So that would be a total of 245.
I mean, we are just 4 of us discussing. We have 7 council members. I know 2 are out there. They own business here in town. So how do we, I know they're excluded from this discussion because they own a business here. Are there any way we can have their inputs? They are not eligible if they opt out from receiving this funding?
Last time Bob indicated, this is the last time, so I'm gonna be careful because apparently my memory's bad. Last time he said that they would need to step out and they couldn't participate in the conversation. That's what he said last time.
But then I heard the discussion if they opt out, not receiving the funding.
That was part of what we were going towards, but then that night he said that they needed to not participate. So that was then. Tonight's a new night.
Right now, all we're deciding on is, you talked about 500,000, you talked about $1 million now. Is that what, we're just deciding on that, right?
But they have to vote.
No?
No, they
They
don't.
don't have to
They're
vote.
not gonna
Okay.
vote.
So remember, this is
Yeah.
just a. an
Giving us
administrative-
direction.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And
Okay.
either one is, we're talking about one more time and that's it. We're not trying to come back and if there was,
Yeah, I'm okay with not coming back to increase again.
I think we're all very okay with that. Don?
Some additional thoughts. I mean, so we're just really having to get comfortable with the number, if it's 500 or a million or 2 million or whatever the number is. I guess these funds were provided for relief, and we only do want to come back this last time. I guess I'm a little bit, if I'm in favor of maybe doing the full 2 million like has been thrown out.
You're saying take this 2 million on top of the 750 that's
Right.
already there?
Yeah, take that 2
Take the 2
million
million
and allocate
from
it to
Howland.
this. And if it gets used, then I'm gonna trust that it's being used for the community, for the betterment of the business community here. And if it doesn't get used, we'll reallocate it. And we won't do this, we won't have this discussion again.
So if that's the case, can we bring some money for this drainage from some other sources?
Yeah.
Yes, so for Howell and Bullock, our proposal there we would shift the funding to the IMF fund and push Southwestern out a couple years, knowing that we need to finish South Beltline, Royal before we can go ahead and do Southwestern. So we bought ourselves some time with the other construction projects that we've got. So we can go ahead and shift from ARP funds for Howell and Bullock and move that to IMF.
I see.
What it's telling you is we were probably a little aggressive on the Howell and Bullock schedule.
I mean, the IMF fund is also coming from sales tax. We also have to be careful there.
Correct, and we're good, and that was in our 5 to 10 year plan. ARP would allow us to accelerate us addressing that project, but it had always been in our plan to address at some point.
And for me, I don't have an issue with taking number 5, the pop-up business support, and shifting that down to help cover the Howell, Bullock, and drainage.
That's what I was thinking too, because that's again another way of supporting business.
You're saying shift the 500 to Howell and Bullock? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
To use that on this project, yeah.
You know, to be quite frank, when we first started talking about this, I was surprised at all these other things that were possible on the list. You know, I thought it was going to be more community-oriented and direct relief for the businesses. So I don't have a problem with moving that amount, that 2 million, up to these 2 programs.
I think to your point, I was quite surprised to see it where else it could be applied to, because I agreed. I thought it was going to be, you know, like Woven and MetroCrest, and I thought it was going to be direct support.
Yeah.
Okay, Mark, thank you for your thought. Bijou, you okay? Are you okay with the 2 million?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm a little bit struggling. Do we need to change the entire amount or not? So 2 million plus 750, that's what you're talking about, right?
Right.
And shifting the pop-up business back to Howell and Bullock drainage. Is that what you're thinking, thought process is?
I just wonder if we're a little bit ahead of the game on that, because because Hal and Bullock, they just haven't really, it's still materializing now.
That's gonna be
right?
2 years out in the future.
Right, we're still,
Yeah.
Yeah, it is out in the future, right?
if it's, I guess it's fine to earmark.
We
it
have
for
how
that,
many
but,
years to use these funds? 5? 4?
The pop-up business, it sounds like that's, could be an economic development recovery type activity, and since we have another source for Hal and Bullock, then I guess I might be in favor of just keeping 500 in the pop-up business if that's a program that we're actually gonna engage in the near term, or have thought about engaging in the near term.
Yeah, let's be bold and go with 2 million.
Okay. John, you okay?
Yep.
All right.
So, and are we gonna put the caveat that you can't double dip?
Yeah,
Yes.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, so so 1.8 to the rental assistance program, an additional 1.8 to the rental addition program, an additional 200,000 to the economic recovery in addition to the 100,000, so 300,000 total. To Mark's point, if they've already applied or if they've already been funded, they can't be refunded or funded again, not refunded, funded again. Do we want to set the stipulation that if they receive the 10,000, then they're not eligible for the 5,000?
I'll give you my thought on that. I'm fine prioritizing the 10,000 to people who've not received the 5,000. If there are funds left over, I do see the Beltline construction as an additional burden in addition to the economic mess. So I'm okay with them stacking them. I don't mind the prioritizing and making sure the big pot of money is used by as many businesses as we can first. Does that make sense? And then if there are funds left over and but that means they're gonna try to get the 10,000.
First.
Oh wait, no.
They will get the 10,000 first.
Well, you know where I was going with this, but logistically it doesn't work out, does it? Because you're gonna get the 10,000 first.
So we may have to push the timing on the revenue recovery then, if we want to make sure.
Well, the 5,000 is not eligible for everybody else, though.
Correct, but if you want to
Oh.
make sure,
The ones that didn't get the 10,000 in the Beltline construction area, make sure they get funded first.
correct, if they didn't get the 10,000, then
What goes equal would be easy.
I'm okay prioritizing, but I think it's okay to double stack them if the funds are available. If that makes
Funds are
sense.
available.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Then we need a time period, right?
Well, you're gonna have to help me think through this, Mindy, of how we would have to make that work.
So again, we wanted to give priority to those south of Southwestern, so
Right.
That's 12 business.
that's 12 businesses, so, but if we want to make sure the 10,000, if we want to give priority to those that have not received the 10,000, we need to wait till all the funds for the 10,000 are gone.
For that time, that application period is finished, right? Or, well, that's
Yes,
the other
that's
thing, is
the
how
other
long does
thing.
this go?
We left it open. What we did the first round was it will be a continuous call until all the funds were depleted. Now, that happened to be 2 days this time around.
Mhm.
I don't know if that will be, I don't know how quickly 180 will go. But we've got to, if we're going to do the letters again, we've got to space, we've got to do the timing.
So, hang on.
Mhm.
You're dealing with something you don't know. So you don't know what the response rate and how fast the next round of the 10,000 is going to go. So regardless, she can go execute that. And then you may end up with the case where you've still got funds available in the 10,000 case, in which case what we were just telling her is that she couldn't send out the notification for the construction recovery.
What I'm struggling with though is if you're on Beltline, you're gonna ask for the 10,000 first, clearly, right? Because you're gonna want to secure that money. You don't want to get the 5,000 and not
Exclude
get
yourself.
exclude yourself from the 10,000, so that doesn't make sense to begin
But
with.
that,
So if you get, and we were talking about depleting the funds, but that doesn't matter for the Beltline. Okay.
Are you wanting to give priority for both funding to the Beltline businesses? Because they're impacted right now.
Well, to Mayor's point, you don't know how many are actually gonna apply for.
I mean, if they don't apply, then you can't do
Right,
anything about
right,
it.
right.
If you're giving them the priority,
at this point, I would suggest that we just treat them as two separate events
And you can stack them, right?
and stack them
Yeah.
sequentially, one after the other.
do we even know whether the South of Beltline, those businesses actually apply for the 10,000?
I would have to go
Yeah, I
back
see
and.
Dunkin' Donuts.
No, we don't know if they actually apply.
For the rent.
Don't believe, just based on memory, I don't believe any of those south of Southwestern applied for the 10,000, or got in for the 10,000 grant in the first 65. I might have to go back and verify, but I don't believe any of those got their application in for the 10,000.
It's just like that cleaner owner was talking about, 5,000 that can help them, but maybe 15 will, I don't know.
Now, I know some north of Southwestern received the 10,000.
Well, I know this might get complex, and I'm trying to figure out in my mind how you would actually do it, but for those people on Beltline who receive the 5,000, they should be able to then get 5,000 from the other pot. That way they're made whole, just like any other business. But they've got that prioritization of the 5,000 immediately.
Nobody's got 5,000 yet, because that hasn't been sent out.
Right.
Right.
I've now talked myself around. I actually think just stacking them and just, the prioritization we have, I think is sufficient, actually, now that I think through this. But stacking them is okay. I mean, they can get both grants if you're in the right zone.
So the list that you provided us, the business name with 83, I see Dunkin' Donuts here, and they are on 635. Yes, right?
They front Beltline.
Right. So they already applied for the 10,000.
No, sir, those are just the list of businesses that are eligible for the revenue recovery grant.
Recovery list.
Oh, I see, okay.
Yeah, if it were the rental, the list would be 800 long.
So, would the business on Southville, I think they'll apply
So-
both at the same time, again,
Yeah.
at the same time.
So
Because they're probably the most impacted.
Right.
are
I think
we,
we're good. Yeah.
We've got the double.
Yeah.
are we okay?
Yeah,
Impacted
yeah.
twice.
The more I think about it, yeah,
Yeah.
stacking.
I'm the same way. I think
But
we're,
I mean, let the south, business south of Beltline, or that area to be able to, I guess, prioritize in a way, for them to be able to get funding if they apply. Can't force them to apply, but at least that would give them additional funding.
Don?
you were talking about timing. Does the first grant, does it have to end before we start the second one? Or is that your plan? Or,
It doesn't have to if you're willing to allow them to receive both grants. If you
yeah,
if you don't want that, then they need to be run separately.
Logistically, if we needed to separate them, that makes sense. I didn't want to wait too long to get the Beltline people their grant.
Yeah.
Because the project will be, I don't want it to be near the end of the project before they get the grant or
They need
something, so,
funding now.
yeah. So I'm okay with, I mean, however logistically you need to do it, we don't have to finish the first one to get to the second one.
Okay, we'll still keep it where the revenue recovery, those south of Southwestern will have access to the grant application first.
Right.
And then if they don't take advantage of that 2-week time period, then they just get put in with all the rest.
Yes.
Everybody okay?
Yeah.
Do you have enough to move forward?
Yes, sir.
Mike, you okay? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We are running a little bit short on time here. Is there, hang on, Matt, do we need this one tonight, before the meeting tonight?
Oh. No, we need this to be discussed tonight, whenever you were going to discuss it.
How long is your?
I can take up 10 minutes.
Okay, I'm gonna reschedule a little bit. We need to have the discussion on E and maybe F before we go into the meeting tonight. So if you'll excuse me, we may do this. Let's see how long this one comes. So let's handle item E, discussion of the boards and commissions attendance. We recently had a individual
Want them back in?
Oh, yes, thank you, thank you.
Are we voting on something on this tonight?
Yeah,
I thought we moved that off. I thought you moved that off the agenda.
we're going to, but you need to understand why.
Okay.
Welcome back.
Looking at all the other problems was good.
So item E is discussion on boards and commissions attendance. We recently had a member of the library board miss 3 meetings for the year, and under the city charter, the position is declared vacant. The agenda item tonight was to replace that individual, and it was, when I looked at the letter that he wrote, he actually had a good reason for missing at least one of the 3 meetings. I mean, COVID was pretty telling. So the way that our agenda item tonight was written would be to remove him from the library board. And I wanted to make sure that we had a discussion before we went out to the floor to do that. And I'd had a discussion with Mayor Pro Tem today, and we really wanted the ability to perhaps take some other action. And I needed to hear from, because right now, the way that the attendance policy for boards and commissions is written is that if you miss 3 meetings, and it has nothing to do whether you're excused or not, the position is vacated. And based on the letter that we got from Mr. Catham, I felt very bad about taking that out as written. So I'm requesting that we pull the item number 10 to the July meeting, and I think we need to have a very serious discussion internally about how we want to handle the boards and commissions attendance policy, because we haven't changed it. It's still, it has not changed. So there's no exception for excused absence. An absence is an absence. Don?
We had that discussion last meeting, I think, about the potential change. So what was the next steps? How does that need to get put into place, I guess? What needs to happen?
We need to come to a consensus, because there was no clear consensus among the council on how to handle that.
Okay.
So Ashley, quite honestly, is kind of in a very difficult position right now. The charter says to remove the library board member.
Does it say it at the discretion of council?
Yes, we could.
But
So
says shall,
what we
right?
could do is in the language, We could add, I think, I'm sorry, I thought I printed it out. It says, shall be vacated, and all we would have to say by vote of the council. Oh, thank you. See, there she goes. The way it's written right now,
I thought the language is mandatory.
I know it's B.
Didn't it just say per the attendance policy?
No. If a board member is absent for 3 consecutive regularly scheduled board meetings, or if a board member is absent for 25% of the regularly scheduled board meetings within a 12-month period, the position shall be declared vacant and the vacancy shall be filled for the remainder of the unexpired time by the city council within 30 days after the vacancy occurs.
So it's mandatory.
What's that?
So it's mandatory. The language is mandatory.
Yes, it is. That's exactly the point. It is a mandatory.
I mean, so we can declare it vacant and then reassign it.
That's correct. And item,
That defeats the purpose of having it. I mean,
2 for business and 1 for COVID. I mean,
no, but I'm not saying he doesn't have a good excuse. I'm just saying that if we did that, it just kind of defeats the purpose. And I think last time I'm the one who mentioned that it's harsh when you have good excuse that's still counted, right?
right.
But I'm not gonna, I don't know about any other ones, but for this particular position, I think he had missed a very important meeting that was scheduled, and he knew about it, and he didn't provide about his absences during those very important meetings. So I'm concerned about that kind of things.
So he didn't inform the chairman that he was going to be absent.
Not to my knowledge.
Yeah, I think that's something we need to really.
So that was very kind of concerning for me, because I understand if you have excuses and you're making informed ahead of time, letting them know what something's happening. Well, obviously, Kobe can't let them know ahead of time or something like that. But I'm not sure if there was a good reason why the important meeting he missed. That's my concern. And I'm not talking about any other position. I'm just talking about this particular person for that position.
so Cliff?
Yeah. John, I think that you're definitely right about this. But in our last session, we as a council, talked about these various options, and we kind of let them hang. Those options included giving folks leeway, depending upon why they were absent.
Sure.
And I would, since that's very fresh in our discussions, and so I don't see why we can't just, say we're obviously working on the policies. We are the policy group for the city, and so we just won't make a decision on this until we have see if we can't get ourselves together on what we think the policy really ought to be.
There is
But you can't change it.
we actually give ourselves a 30-day timeline to by the charter to make the appointment. Kevin?
According to his email that he sent, he was according to this email, he said that he was advised after consulting with the city that he should not attend third meeting. So he was basically told not to come to the meeting.
This is the third one.
Yeah, but I understand it's the third one. So if he was told not to come to the meeting, it's not like he didn't want to come. And so, like, to me, that's like that choice was taken away from him when he was advised or told not to attend the meeting. So I understand by the letter of the charter that was the third one. But I mean, let's use common sense here. There's the letter of the law and the spirit of the law, right?
So one solution, which is kind of where we were ending up, was if we change the attendance policy to say declared vacant by the council, then we would have this discussion, would consider whether the vacancy needed to be voted on either favorably or not. And you would have that discussion and you can make the decision. That would take the decision away from the city secretary or anybody else. Mark?
But can we do that after the fact? The infraction, for lack of a better word, has already occurred.
Well, yeah, because you're going to basically take into account whether you consider the absence to be excused or not. And if you decide that it's not worthy of vacating the position, you keep the person in the position.
But we would need,
In ex post facto?
Yeah.
but we would need to enact the new attendance policy first and then do that. But you're saying we need to do that within this 30-day window? I just want to make sure I understand.
We have a 30-day window to appoint, let's see, within 30 days after the vacancy occurs. Don?
Hey, this may be a question for Bob. Is the council discretion override the attendance policy?
Here's what you have, it's plain and simple. The charter says that you have a vacancy if there's 3 absent.
Okay.
It's a ministerial duty. She's not, and you're not the gatekeeper. You are, these are your appointments. So what the mayor was suggesting is we just put this off to next month, and then that way we declare the vacancy. If you want to appoint this gentleman back to the board because you feel that he is told not to come or whatever the reason is, these are your appointments, your discretion. The only thing the charter says is that they're vacant. It doesn't say you can't reappoint somebody. Those aren't.
But we can't declare it not vacant. Like, we can't say we're not going to vacate the seat.
Distinction with a difference. It's a distinction without a difference. Because the net effect is if you declare it vacant and reappoint him, then what's the same as you declare it.
I was just thinking.
Not,
we
that's
just-
why we went through this process of the excused absences. 'Cause
Mhm.
you can put extra bones on, or extra meat on those bones. Because all the charter says is declare a vacancy. But you realize that that's kind of folly to some extent, because you could turn around and appoint the same
Reappoint.
person again. You're just trying to have a mechanism to manage your appointments. So, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter.
Okay, I was just gonna say, can we just not declare it? I mean,
Because I don't-
override the vacant.
I doubt very seriously whether district court's gonna mandate you to do something compared to your board's resolution. They're gonna say that within your providence, and you have the right to decide how you interpret the charter and how you implement the charter, which is what you're having in a discussion.
So we don't even declare it vacant, it just is vacant, right?
That's correct.
It's
That's-
vacated.
That's the way I read it.
I got a question.
John?
Yeah. Do you know, I mean, I'm guessing that he still wants to serve because he sent you that email. Do you know if he does want to serve? And for a
The
fact?
only information I have is the same email you all got.
Okay. No, I thought maybe
Because I
you had
just
a
sent him
problem.
an email this morning saying, hey, what's going on? Are you okay? You know, because you missed 3 meetings. And all of a sudden, he sent me the details, why he missed, and you all have the copy of that email.
Sure.
I don't have any further information. I did not speak to him, so I have no idea about his intentions are.
But I am concerned if he just didn't miss the first 2 meetings without, any kind of.
That's my understanding.
Yeah.
I don't want to put words in anybody's, mouth, but
In his email, he said that he had duly informed.
Exactly, that's all I'm looking at.
Yeah, I mean, so-
So is there an email that he can show us for those first 2? That he duly informed them, or picked up the phone, or texted them?
Actually, I can speak to that because I attended both those library board meetings.
Oh,
And the
okay.
chairman knew ahead of time that he was not going to be there.
okay.
There you go.
I can tell you that because I was at the meeting. He announced that
your
he had
answer.
been contacted or had information that he was not gonna be able to.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, thank you for sharing.
Kevin?
How do we move forward? I want to give this guy a shot because based on what I'm reading in this email, I don't think that he should be booted. So what do we need to do to make that happen? What motion do I have to make to?
Nothing now. So
Tell me what we need to do.
we'll pull the item, we will
Perfect.
pull the item number 10 from the agenda, and next month you will see a similar item to reappoint said person to the library board. Don?
But the way officially it's vacated, is that right? Is that the stance? It's officially vacated and we will reappoint next
I
session?
don't think the
Right.
charter is self-executing. I think
No,
you
you
have
don't
to
think so?
do something.
Okay, well, that's what I was wondering. That's why I was wondering if we just don't,
That's why
we
it's
just
on
don't
the
vacate
agenda
it,
tonight.
if that's the case.
And we don't want him to miss a meeting.
Well,
Because
there's nothing
There's
scheduled
nothing.
between now and
Okay,
then.
I just want to make sure.
That's a fair.
Does Ms. Owens need any other direction from us? Okay.
I guess follow-up would be, what's the timeline for the new attendance policy?
So
Hold on, I haven't heard what the new attendance policy is.
Or the discussion continuing on about a new attendance policy? What does that look like?
well, I was going to say the same thing the city manager did. So I haven't heard of a new attendance policy.
Where can we talk about a new attendance policy? When is that on the schedule next?
Well, it was supposed to be on tonight, but we're running very short of time because it's 7:30.
Okay.
We do need to come back in here after the session to handle the Mr. Steers item as well as Ms. Owens' boards and commissions item. So we will be back and we can further discuss it and decide if we have time tonight to handle it or if we need to do it at a later time.
Perfect.
We're going to recess from work session. The time is 7:31. We will be convening into regular session of the Coppell City Council in 5 minutes, 7:35. And we will be back here after the council meeting. Howdy, everyone. Today is June 14th. The time is 7:39. We have recessed from work session and we're reconvening into the regular session of the Coppell City Council. And I appreciate everybody being here tonight. As a reminder, anyone wishing to speak during our citizens' appearance or the public hearing must sign the appropriate register outside of the chambers and list your address. Is Pastor Steve Elkins here tonight? We did not believe he was joining us, so will you please rise for our invocation? Heavenly Father, you are our Lord and our Savior. Keep us safe in these uncertain times as we look to you. We look to you to keep us safe, and we look to you to protect us from the wicked. You honor those who fear you, and you honor those who keep a promise even when it hurts. You honor those who help the needy and do not expect anything in return. You honor those who do not take advantage of those that are less fortunate. Teach us to look to you for guidance and answers. Through the love of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. Now, if you'll please remain standing for our Pledge of Allegiance. As a note, today is Flag Day, which is June 14th, and Flag Day commemorates the anniversary of the occasion in 1777 on which the Second Continental Congress declared that the American flag would have 13 stripes alternating red and white with 13 stars in a field of blue representing the new constellation. Well, we've progressed a little bit beyond that. And the earliest recorded mention of Flag Day occurred in 1885 when a Wisconsin teacher, Bernard Sigrin, proposed the idea. And it wasn't until the President Harry Truman signed Flag Day into law on August 3rd in 1949 that we now celebrate Flag Day. If you will join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much, and be seated. All right. Item number 6 is our citizens' appearance, and I do not believe that we've had anybody signed up to speak, so we'll move on to item number 7, which is our proclamations. And if members of the allies in the community that are present with us, including Seth and Leslie, Jack and Sue and Bill, if they're here, and anybody else that would like to join me down front, please. Thank you for joining me. Council, for your consideration. Whereas the month of June is of historical significance to the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer community, and whereas Pride Month is a time to recall the trials of the LGBTQ+ community that has endured and to rejoice in the triumphs of the trailblazing individuals who have bravely fought and continue to fight for full equality, and whereas our community respects a diverse culture, a diverse workforce, and diverse ideas, and whereas our community recognizes the achievement, contributions, and rich cultural heritage of the LGBTQ community, and whereas our community reaps many benefits from our citizens who augment our cultural life through, among other things, the sciences, the arts, education, politics, religion, philanthropy, healthcare, public service, labor, business, and entrepreneurship, and whereas many groups work to promote acceptance, understanding, and equality for the LGBTQ individuals, and whereas our community recognizes the resilience and determination of the many individuals who are fighting to live freely and authentically, and therefore I, Wes Mays, Mayor of the City of Coppell, do proclaim the month of June 2022 as Pride Month, and call upon our citizens to reflect upon the LGBTQ history and celebrate a culture where all citizens are respected for those who are regardless of their sexual orientation, where love is love, and to wave their flags of pride high. In witness thereof, I've set my hand and caused the seal of the city of Coppell to be affixed this 14th day of June, 2022. Council. Councilmember Hill.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion proclaiming the month of June as Pride Month and authorizing the mayor to sign.
Thank you, and a second by Councilmember Nevels. All in favor?
Long, Carol, Nevels, Matthew Hill, abstain. John, the motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Do we have a spokesperson here?
Have a little something. I just wanted to thank you very much on behalf of the LGBTQ community. I work for Resource Center, probably the largest LGBTQ nonprofit in the state of Texas, and I'm very proud to represent them. It's important to note that the first Pride wasn't a parade, it was a riot back in 1969 because people were being arrested for who they were. Today, Pride is much more of a celebration, but it's also sobering to note that 31 members of a well-organized white supremacist hate group made the trip to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho to visit injury and death upon people celebrating Pride there. 6 of those members of Patriot Front live in Tarrant County. So we have exported some pretty serious hate to Idaho. So it's just important to note that that's out there, and it's not always safe to enjoy Pride. We hope that it is, but we still have a ways to go, and proclamations like this matter. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Leslie. I'll leave that to you to share with your other members. Thank you very much. Okay, item number 8 is a proclamation proclaiming Yoga Day. Do we have any representatives from our I guess, Professor Jane? Bring the friends along as well. Council, for your consideration. Whereas the COVID-19 pandemic has been unprecedented in human tragedy that has exacerbated psychological suffering and mental health problems, and whereas people around the world embrace yoga to fight social isolation and depression during the pandemic, and whereas the essence of yoga is balance, not just balance within the body or that between the mind and the body, but also the balance in the human relationship with the world. Whereas yoga emphasizes the value of mindfulness, moderation, discipline, and perseverance, and whereas in keeping with this spirit, this theme for this year's Yoga Day, for this Yoga Day celebration, is Yoga for Humanity. Now, therefore, I, Wes Mays, Mayor of the City of Coppell, do designate June 21st, 2022 as Yoga Day. In witness thereof, I've set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Coppell to be affixed this 14th day of June 2022. Council. Mayor Pro Tem Matthew.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the proclamation designating June 21st, 2022 as Yoga Day and authorizing the mayor to sign.
Do I have a second? Councilmember Hill. All in favor?
Long, Carol, Nevels, John, Matthew Hill in favor, none opposed. The motion carries.
Thank you very much. Do you have a few words to say?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor, for this. So Yoga Day was accepted by United Nations about 5 years back. So it is celebrated now across the world. It's a copyright-free gift from India to the world. There is no trademark, no copyright, but the key is that we all should practice yoga, we who is speaking and who all are listening. Yoga also means to unite, for not just body, mind to unite, but also communities to unite. So yoga is a philosophy, represents great union and great unity. Thank you again for doing this, everybody.
Thank you for being here tonight. I did want to have one point of clarification on item number 7. There was an abstention in the vote, and some people have asked how that is recorded by the city, and under our home rule charter, any abstention shall be recorded as an affirmative vote in favor of the motion pending, and that's how it's recorded in the record. So for clarity for the future. All right, item number 9 is our consent agenda. The consent agenda is routine in nature and is specifically enacted in a single motion. These items have been previously approved through the budget or past council action. Any item may be pulled and considered separately. Full descriptions are available on the screen. We do have one change in item E, 9E. The date that the resolution suspends will be August 1st, 2022. Are there any other items that the council would prefer to have pulled or discussed? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion. Councilmember John.
Mayor, I move to approve consent agenda item A through F with the change of item D with to date August 1st.
And seconded by Councilmember Neville. All in favor?
Long, Carol, Neville's, John, Matthew Hill in favor. None opposed. The motion carries.
Thank you very much. All right, item number 10 is going to be pulled from the agenda, so we will consider that item next month. That moves us on to item number 11, which is our city manager report.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, just a few things to report. First, the concrete paving panel replacement work has started on Falcon. Then they'll be moving over to Mockingbird and Dividend. The roof replacement is occurring over at the Justice Center, should be complete by August. And then if you have driven down South Beltline, you've noticed that the concrete paving continues to be poured along that route. The other thing that I'd just like to announce, we have a guest with us tonight, Kelly Sanderford. Kelly is part of, he's waving his hand back there. Kelly is part of an ICMA, International City and County Manager Association exchange program, where he is here visiting from Fort Hood. These are my words, not his, so I say basically he helps run Fort Hood. That's probably, he's going to go back home and there you go, I got a thumbs up. His commander may not agree with that, but anyway, so we're honored to have him here. He's a retired serviceman and now a GS, civil service, in the role that he has now. So we're glad to have him this week. And you will see him Thursday night as well, because he will be there listening to the budget process.
You didn't tell us we were being inspected tonight.
I don't think he's a general inspector, but anyway. And then over to my right is Mattia Messmer. Mattia is our new Employee Experience Director. She started on Monday, so she comes to us from Hearst. She's got 20 plus years of experience in human resources, and we are excited to have her on board. So Mattia is someone that you'll be seeing more of in the coming months. So with that, Mayor, that concludes my comments.
All right. Item number 12 is mayor and council reports. I did want to report real briefly that there was a benefit supporting Jacqueline Duran by our police and fire departments. They had a cornhole tournament in the core gymnasium, and I don't know how many people were there playing, but they must have had 20 teams. And the overall winner was none other than our fire chief, Kevin Richardson. And I got to tell you, Councilmember Neville's, don't go up against him. He was their team. They were playing at a very, very high level. Well, Councilmember John was asking about how they were doing that and fighting fires. While I was there, there were several calls that came in and teams completely left, so they were doing their job. But it was great to see them out supporting Jacqueline. So anyway, that was great. The budget, we do start our budget process this week, and we're inviting the entire community to participate. Our city staff is using inputs from residents and businesses to inform proposed projects and programs. And as a part of the annual budget process, the City Council holds numerous public workshops, and our residents are encouraged to get involved, attend, and provide feedback. As a bit of an incentive, Coppell's own Marble Slab Creamery is helping the city make the budget process extra sweet this year. Community members who attend the workshop to get the budget scoop will also receive a free scoop of ice cream, and the budget workshops will be held at the Cosby Library and Community Commons on 177 North Hertz. On June 16th, we will be discussing special revenue funds and the funding for local service organizations. That meeting will begin at 6 p.m. Then on June 21st, also at 6 p.m., we will discuss the debt service fund and the general fund. Then on June 23rd, also at 6 p.m., we will discuss the water and sewer enterprise funds. And then on July 28th at 6 p.m., we will conduct the final budget review and discuss the proposed tax rate. So please stay informed and learn all about our City of Coppell budget at the coppelltx.gov/budget. And if you have a budget-related questions or comment, please email the city staff at budgetinput@coppelltx.gov. Our city offices will be closed on Monday, June 20th, in observance of Juneteenth. Normal business hours will resume on Tuesday, June 21st. And please come out and celebrate Party in the Park on Saturday, July 2nd from 6 to 10 p.m. This will be held at Andrew Brown East Park at 260 Parkway Boulevard. We'll kick off the Independence Day holiday weekend with a party and enjoy a variety of entertainment, including live music from the Emerald City Band and the Prophets and Outlaws. We'll have lawn games, face painting, and more. Food trucks will be on site to purchase eats and drinks, and bring your own picnic, and food deliveries are also welcome. There will be designated parking areas for food delivery to speed that up. The fireworks spectacular, choreographed patriotic music will begin about 9:45 p.m. The Party in the Park is pedestrian friendly and walking is encouraged. You may attend access the event via trail from Andrew Brown Central and west, as well as the high school to the west, and from the north across the Denton Creek Bridge. Passenger drop-off will be located at the core, and accessible parking will be available at Andrew Brown East parking lot. Then, to completely round out our holiday weekend, come celebrate the parade down Parkway on Monday, July 4th at 9 a.m. The parade will begin at Samuel Boulevard and on Sandy Lake Road and travel north on Samuel to Parkway, then head west to Town Center. Intersections along the parade route will be closed prior to the approaching parade and remain closed until all entries have passed. Spectators are encouraged to line the parade route early for the best locations to view all the red, white, and blue. And if you would like to be part of the parade, so submit an application by 5 p.m. on Friday, June 24th to participate. Visit celebratecoppell.com for more information. Our city offices will also be closed on Monday, June 4th in observance of Independence Day. I knew I was going to get that wrong. July 4th in observance of Independence Day, and normal business hours will resume Tuesday, July 5th. That is the end of the mayor and council reports. Number 13 is public service announcements concerning items of community interest. Do we have any public service announcements? Seeing none, there was no action from the executive session, so we will recess from regular session of the Coppell City Council and reconvene into work session. The public is welcome to join us in the first floor conference room. of sign ordinance. Mr. Steer.
Mayor, Council, good evening. Tonight's presentation is an overview of the proposed changes to the sign ordinance, and staff seeking some direction related to whether council would like for us to bring forward all or some of the proposed amendments or additions for consideration. Staff's been working with the Planning and Zoning Commission since the December 2021 in relation to the potential zoning ordinance amendments. And this would allow changeable letters on school monument signs, allowing pylon signs along State Highway 121 and 635, and allowing for 2 digital billboards to replace 2 static billboards at LBJ and the DART right-of-way. Since these proposed changes have not been previously discussed with the City Council, we wanted to brief you on the proposal in a work session. Make sure you're familiar with the changes prior to an item being placed on the July 12th City Council agenda. We will bring forward the P&Z proposed changes as recommended by P&Z, and at the July 12th meeting, you will have the ability to make changes to all or part of the amendments. Hopefully, by us providing background tonight, the City Council will be more familiar and can be better prepared when the item is brought forward for consideration. Again, if Council is not in agreement with the details of the proposed revisions, they can recommend changes on the July 12th meeting or deny the ordinance amendment altogether. Next slide, please. Okay. The first of the proposed revisions is to add public and private schools as uses allowed to have non-electronic changeable letters in addition to those uses that already include religious institutions and governmental organizations that are already allowed. And we've allowed these types of signs, but nothing's been formally changed in the ordinance. So this amendment will formalize this use and allow the public and private schools to continue to use signage to inform parents of certain events such as first day of school, when a PTA meeting is, spring break, etc. After 2 recent large developments along highways received City Council approval for pylon signage, staff discussed with Planning and Zoning Commission the idea of changing the current sign ordinance to allow for these types of signs along highways by right. In an effort to work through the proposed amendments, staff researched surrounding cities, and the Planning and Zoning Commission formed a subcommittee to discuss the design criteria. And this resulted in the proposed change that was unanimously recommended for approval by the Planning and Zoning Commission. So a pylon sign is defined as a freestanding sign supported by 2 vertical poles encased in brick, stone, or materials architecturally compatible with the main building or structure on the property. The size would be limited to 40 feet maximum height, 20 feet maximum width. By allowing this by right, the ordinance can help promote development of the remaining large parcel of land at LBJ and Point West Boulevard, and will allow existing retail an avenue to attract highway business by increasing their visibility. The left 2 are examples of what we're trying to avoid, and the option on the right is something we were aiming for. So this would be solely allowed on properties with highway commercial zoning and part of a larger conceptual plan development district. We put together a mock-up of a pylon sign that is in accordance with the potential new provisions of the ordinance. And the third component of the sign ordinance amendment relates to billboards. 2 digital billboards are proposed at LBJ and the DART right-of-way to replace 2 existing static billboards at that location. 8 additional billboard structures have been removed within the DART right-of-way along East Beltline Road. TxDOT rules allow cities to decide if they'd like to incorporate the relocation and digital technology into their sign ordinances. And currently, the ordinance prohibits the new installation of off-premise digital signs. So in an effort to reduce the signage and implement digital technology, an ordinance change would be required. Here are the 8 billboards. If you're going westbound on East Beltline, that's the before picture, and then they've since been removed. And here's driving west on 635. If you see on the right-hand side, there's an existing sign and a new sign. The new sign will have the digital technology on the front face and a static billboard on the rear face, and the existing sign will go away. And here's the before picture driving east on 635, and then after, replacing with a digital front face and static rear face. This is a typical billboard that Clear Channel provided staff, and it does have a masonry base. There was some discussion at the Planning and Zoning Commission, and they agreed to wrap their pole with masonry veneer. So this is a high-level overview of the potential amendments. And on May 19, 2022, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the city-initiated zoning ordinance amendments. So they unanimously recommended approval, and staff is seeking direction from council on whether they wish for staff to continue with all or part of the zoning ordinance amendments. Again, these include the monument signs, the changeable letters on monument signs, the pylon signs, and then the billboards at the dark right-of-way at LPJ. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you for your time. I'm available for questions. Yes, sir.
Matt, you had an image up of two of the big pylon signs that we didn't want.
Yes, sir.
How do you write that, or how are you writing that section of the sign regulations to exclude that?
Well, we've been through several iterations, and so we do have stone veneer that's required up to a certain point on the signs. We have landscaping at the base, and a basic sign panel that's the same color, and so you have contrast with the verbiage that's on the panels.
And then you prohibit box signs and things of that nature?
We specifically geared it towards white letters, routed push-through letters on panels.
Okay.
And this would have to be approved by P&Z and the council?
This was recommended by Planning and Zoning Commission?
No, any sign that was going to be installed would have to be approved by P&Z and the council?
For new conceptual PDs. On the existing conceptual PDs, that can be approved administratively.
Okay. I thought it would have been the other way around. Why administratively on the existing ones? And
well, if we set up the provisions and they meet all of the provisions of the ordinance, and there's already a conceptual PD, the director has the right to administratively sign off on changes to that plan development district.
Okay, and how would that not apply for a new PD?
A new PD comes through the process anyway, so this would be a component of them coming through the process.
Thank you. So part of what doesn't come out is we've been very protective of our signage in town for 30 years. And so this is part of what gives Coppell the look of what we currently live in is due to our sign ordinances. So that we have in the past spent quite a bit of time on this topic. Kevin?
Sure, just to be clear for everyone who may be watching, so these 40-foot tall pylon signs would only be on the highway district.
Correct.
Be allowed on 635, not internally in town.
635 and 121 and the Sam Rayburn toll.
Thank you for
clarifying.
Thank you.
There wouldn't be much opportunity along the Sam Rayburn for these, would there?
There might be one instance.
John?
I have a question on the planning, I guess the staff report. When you go to the discussion,
yes, sir.
It talks about at that time, I guess it talked about staff brought a similar request for the plant P&Z on December 16, 21 at that time, defining allowing seasonal businesses to have changeable letters on the monument for the request that was excluded. Can you?
Right, so that was Jeff Farnell's TRK proposal. So in conjunction with this sign ordinance amendment, we included seasonal businesses as other allowable types. But the Planning and Zoning Commission, they looked at us, or looked at the request, and they thought we were just singling out one business. And so they said, take that as a separate plan development district.
Okay. But it is actually included for the seasonal?
Seasonal business isn't included in this.
Not in this one?
No, sir.
But they are allowed to have?
The TRK business is allowed.
Okay. Yeah, just wanted to get that clarification. I wasn't sure about the language here. Once this goes into effect, how many signs, if the available properties are able to put up, how many do we how many will we see if it was maxed out?
Well, I'd say 5 to 10.
Right, because it's only limited to the...
Yes, sir, and it's for a large conceptual plan development district.
I don't have a problem with it.
Don?
I was just gonna say, I recommend approval of the request. That's all I have.
All right. Anybody else? Thank you very much.
Okay, so we'll bring back all
what I'm hearing
three
is
components.
bring it back as presented tonight.
Yes, sir.
And as approved by P&Z, right? This is all
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, we have two items, both of them involving boards and commissions. Do we want to take up our attendance policy first, or let Ashley present her findings on what she's been doing with the boards and commission process in general?
Ashley says she wants to go first.
I think Ashley needs to go first. So this is an update regarding the annual boards and commissions appointments. And I didn't know they were doing what they were doing, but kind of information that's kind of useful, so.
It's not advancing.
I like the Google Earth animations there. That was neat.
6:35 at night, look back.
No.
I was gonna say.
Yeah,
It's the video.
Did you notice there's a snow there?
Was that actually a Google Earth?
It looked like it.
Sorry.
We believe in you, Ashley.
Well, now we know it's only 4 slides long. Oh.
That's a sneak peek at my presentation.
There you go.
66, wow. Oh, 66.
Okay. So thank you, Mayor. Tonight I'm here to provide you all an update on a couple of items as well as receive feedback and direction on others. So, and there's that ribbon again. So one of the items that I want to provide you an update on was the Code of Ethics that you all recently adopted. Then I want to provide an update on the newly formed Special Legal Counsel and the Ethics Review Panel. Applications for those two boards closed yesterday, and we're going to need volunteers to sit for the sit for the interviews to select candidates and appoint on July 12th. Also, after last year's appointment process, our office put out a survey to provide feedback on how we did. I would like to share that feedback with you and offer a condensed timeline for this year's appointment process. So, to begin, the new Code of Ethics. This ordinance was adopted on April 12th, and as stated in the Code of Ethics, all city officials before their appointment shall sign the following ethics pledge and file it with the city secretary. The ordinance then contains the language that is required for the pledge. And I wanted to let you know that we have reached 100% compliance from all of our appointed officials. So yay us.
As of when?
We're not going to talk about that.
A couple hours.
Not important.
So I wanted to also let you know that all new applications for boards and commissions are going to have the pledge built into the application. So this will ensure 100% compliance for all appointed officials. And then also around this table, City Council will receive the link to complete your own ethics pledge now that we have all of our appointed officials on board. So you'll receive an email from me tomorrow. All right, so a companion piece to the Code of Ethics was the ordinance that formed the Special Legal Counsel and the Ethics Review Panel. Council instructed our office to advertise and accept applications for the 2 new boards back in April. And those applications, like I said, closed yesterday, and we had a very large turnout. So we have received 52 applications that's combined.
You were
for the
supposed
2
to ask for volunteers before you told me.
Oh, well.
Good job with Cliff.
I'm trying to be very transparent, Mayor. So we received 52 applications combined. We received 10 applications for the Special Legal Counsel, and then 42 applications for the Ethics Review Panel. So we have tentatively scheduled, or we've blocked out time basically from June 27th to July 7th to hold those interviews. And we believe that that will work with council schedule, obviously, depending on vacations and all that good stuff. The question becomes, who would like to volunteer to serve on these interview panels? Historically, we've always had 2 to 3. My recommendation would be 2 council members per board run the interviews. But I'll.
So we're soliciting volunteers to interview for the ethics review panel.
And special legal counsel.
Let's do one at a time.
Okay, let's do that.
I'll volunteer, Kevin.
Well, Brianna's the obvious choice.
I have a vacation like right in the middle of all that, so it would make I totally would.
Cancel the vacation.
No, it's a cruise ship, I can't.
And I'm on vacation in that town too.
I mean, if we could, that's
Well,
a lot of interviews, if we could condense it, I would try.
Well,
So I actually we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
it's already down to, I mean, you can literally do the interviews we will set it up where you do them in an evening. It's not going to be like this 10 days.
I don't mind being part of that process.
Okay, and again, this is a 2-week time period, so we can find what date works best for you and then inform the candidates.
All right, I'm in.
Okay, Kevin? Okay, Brianna?
Okay. Now, special legal counsel.
Now, special legal counsel, this is what, we had 10 applicants? And you will be selecting one?
I thought we're doing more than that.
Recommended 3.
3, okay.
3 out of 10, is that what you said?
Yes.
Want to take the easy one? You want to come on board the hard one? No. Could be awesome.
Don, you up?
I will do whatever the council would like me to do.
She wrote that name down.
Whatever
so
the
fast.
Godfather would like me to do down there.
Godfather will join you.
You better speak up, son.
The other 3 of you guys are doing a really good job of not looking at me. Don.
I'm assuming there'll be a qualification process like we do with the other ones. I mean,
So I do want to say that, yes.
She's going to
There's
talk
more
about
process.
that.
Okay.
She's going to talk about that in a moment.
Well, I will do it if.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Sure, you wrote your name down, man.
Are you?
Yeah, okay.
That was easy.
That went really smooth. Okay. All right, so now that we have our set pieces, I will email you all if there are dates that are just no-go. I'm basing it off of the council's calendar, so these dates look clear to me, but I want you to know what your personal schedules. Okay. So, like I stated earlier, We had put out 2 surveys at the end of last year's board and commission appointment process. The first survey was geared towards those who applied for a board and commission seat. Our response rate was about 31%. And then we sent out a separate interview that was only geared towards those who participated in the interviews and who were appointed. Also, obviously, our response rate was, again, 37%. The purpose of the survey was to gauge how well each process was serving our citizens. The feedback that we received was overall positive, and we were also able to identify areas where we could improve. So now I'll take you through a brief highlight over the survey data. So questions 1 through 5 are listed on the right, and these questions were rated based on agree, slightly agree, neutral, slightly disagree, and disagree. Again, overall, very positive. We had some folks that applied who didn't get selected, but they stated that the process was easy and that they would be willing to apply again next year. So an open-ended question that we asked was, what are the top 3 things that we could do to improve our application process? And the biggest feedback that we received was that interviews and wait times were way too long. That the interview process needed to be managed. Folks were curious about what criteria we used, not we, City Council used to select appointments, transparency in the process, and communication around the process. So let's move on to the interview and appointment process survey. Again, the questions are on the right, and overall, we scored well. These questions were rated on agree, slightly agree, neutral, slightly disagree, and disagree. Also, I do want to point out that the survey was very long for this particular one. We asked questions about the reception and the appointment, actual swearing-in ceremony. For the sake of time, I'm gonna leave that out. So questions 5 and 6 were measured on acceptable, slightly acceptable, neutral, slightly unacceptable, and unacceptable. So again, we're talking about wait times and times for interviews. Not as positive as our previous questions were rated. So if anybody has any questions, I'm sorry, I'm moving kind of fast through this because I want to go home. Sorry.
Just real quick. Does this mean wait time from when they did the interview to when they found out if they were selected or not?
For their interview.
Waiting for the interview.
Yes.
And then the actual time in the interview.
Yes.
The second one. Okay, thank you.
Actually, you said this was sent out to everyone, that whether they were scheduled for appointment or not? All the applicants, or?
So the first survey that I went through, the first 2 questions that I went through were only for applicants who did not get appointed.
Okay, but not appointed, but I think there were some that didn't even get the interview.
Right.
So they were also given.
They were not sent this survey
Okay.
in particular. So they're 2 separate surveys, 2 separate groups.
So 31 out of 96 responded for this.
Yeah.
And then we're back to the top 3 things that we could do to improve the interview and appointment process. So this was the feedback that this is the compiled feedback that we received. We did have very long wait times for interviews during last year's process. And that was, we received this feedback in the survey as well as emails that we were sent individually as well. So, after seeing the results, Sarah and I brainstormed some goals on how we could improve the process. And when it comes to boards and commissions, our role is to help find the interested citizens that want to serve the community by participating on a board or commission. Our citizens, we believe our citizens deserve a streamlined, efficient process when it comes to applying for a seat. And we want to make applications, interviews, appointments, and a dedicated time that we can orient our new board members a priority. So now I'm going to walk you through a potential way to evaluate applicants to determine which applicants to actually interview. This is a tool that I would recommend that we use for the upcoming boards that we talked about, Special Legal Counsel and Ethics Review Panel, but also for the fall and moving forward. The approach is intended to be a flexible tool for council members tasked with being on the interview panel, and we think that it will help City Council in choosing the best candidates to interview, which would then cut down on the amount of time that any given citizen is forced to wait or wait through a process that is way too long. So the above visual is you're seeing 5 applicants, and this is typically what we would send you once a process has closed. We send you a large spreadsheet with all of your applicants. We believe that the time taken to provide more information on an application is a valuable tool or insight into the applicant's interest and qualifications to serve on a team-oriented board. As you can see, there are some applicants that chose not to answer questions placed on the application. Or in other cases, you might notice that an applicant chose to give minimal information to answer the question. This might indicate that the applicant did not take the time to display why City Council should choose them to serve on a board. Our recommendation to Council is to utilize this tool to select eligible applicants to interview. And I did want to state that we do screen applications for eligibility, which means that Sarah and I verify voter registration and the fact that they actually have a Coppell address. That is the only thing that we do as staff before we give you this spreadsheet. So again, you're looking for interested citizens to serve on these boards. And so now I want to get into our timeline for this coming year. Again, the survey that we put out was very helpful. We learned that the almost 6-month timeline for appointments was just way too long. And our communication efforts needed to be improved. This year, we are planning to introduce a shortened timeline that will keep our applicants informed, as well as streamlining how we orient our new board members. We'll advertise in the weeks leading up to the application period. And the thing that you'll notice here is that our application period has shortened from 6 weeks to 4 weeks. We believe that interested citizens will seek out the application and complete the application within the given time. Once the application period closes, City Council will have the opportunity to evaluate the eligible applications to determine who receives an interview. We will then begin the interviews the week of October 17th. That is a 2-week period, and interviews are typically held at Town Center. Appointments will then be made at the November 8th City Council meeting. That is a change. And then the last item is Thursday, December 1st, when we will hold our first appointed officials orientation. This is not something that we have not done this before. And this will be focusing on providing ethics training for our new code of ethics, overviewing the Open Meetings Act and the Public Information Act, and then we'll also have a tangible item with you to take home with you, which is our new handbook for all elected and appointed officials. On December 13th, we will have time at the council meeting to thank those members who are no longer serving on our boards. So I know that I've said a lot, so I'm going to stop talking. Yes, sir. Oh, sorry.
So I was just going to point out, from the council standpoint, there's not going to be a significant change, with the exception of the burden is going to be greater between the October 17th to 27th. It's going to be a pretty hectic 2 weeks or 10 days for everybody. Yes, Mark?
So I wanted to ask, so the application period ends on the 7th. When would we get the compiled list of applicants?
We would have that prepared and ready to send to you on October 8th.
October 8th.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we would take a week to evaluate those
Mm-hmm.
and then let you know.
Who you would like to interview.
So that would put us to the 15th. And then you would notify them that they're going to have an interview in the following week?
So yes, that does sound like a very quick
Yeah.
turnaround. So what we will do is draft a schedule based on availability and preferences based on the mayor's ranking list. And then we would advertise those interview dates on the application page. So if you were to select the Board of Adjustment that you wanted to serve on, you would know at the time of your application that this is the date that you will be interviewing.
Right.
So hoping that you would hold that date on your calendar, but then being notified you've actually received an interview.
And the applicants will be given the same date as well, is that correct?
The applicants will be given the same date as well.
Yes.
Yes.
When they fill out the application?
Yes, yes. Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
So they even have to block out that?
If they're wanting to apply for that position, they know that the
Yes.
interview will be held that date if they're selected to interview.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
The,
Kevin?
the system is smart enough, because I know in the past, the application is, you've kind of had like maybe a first choice and a second choice. It'll give you that information for those
dates?
For those dates, like,
And my imagination would be that it would actually just be posted on the site,
oh,
not necessarily a feature that would be included on the
okay,
application.
understood. But just
I
easily,
understand.
I
Yes.
know I'm applying for these two boards.
Yes.
Here are the two dates that I need to make available on my calendar.
Yes.
For those interviews, if I get selected. So,
Yes.
for an interview.
Yes.
And are we still allowing Zoom interviews?
That is at council's discretion.
I mean, I think with this compressed schedule, I mean, we may need to do that. I mean, I prefer face-to-face, obviously, but, you know, if someone's, you know, if they've applied on October 7th, they may already have a out-of-town business meeting already scheduled, and they would have to.
But they know the schedule because application has a date too.
Right, but that shouldn't preclude you from wanting to be on that board and applying for that board. So if you're out of town, at least you could, you know, since typically held after business hours, you could call in to still make that date.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with the Zoom. It's just.
I just don't want to exclude people who are really qualified, and we may miss some opportunities with this compressed timeline.
Yeah, I have a suggestion. You know, when we have city council election, the applicants have a question and answer session with the city secretary, right? Likewise, can we have something for people who are applying for boards?
That's actually something that we have taken into consideration.
Oh.
Well, not necessarily a sit-down type situation, but we were going to solicit folks who are current board members who would like to be a part of a kind of question and answer video series where we could get some of our tenured board members that could kind of give a little testimonial about what they've gotten out of serving on the boards and just market it for us.
Right.
So that is kind of similar what we're talking about, but I understand what you're saying in terms of sit down.
Members don't know what's the expectation.
Sure.
Like you have a survey saying 15 minutes interview, what are the questions they're gonna ask me?
Exactly.
What qualification do I need to be in park board or CRDC board? So those questions can be answered by through you or someone else who's been a veteran of the board.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea.
There's also something else that she's doing that she said was new, but it's that orientation.
Yeah, those who are selected.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
but this
that-
is people who are not.
And I'm really applauding her for taking the initiative to do that.
I think that's a good idea too.
And I also I gotta be honest, you know, if you take a look at the total schedule, it's basically October 17th through December 1st. That's 6 weeks, much quicker than what we've done in the past. Anybody have any comments, questions, other concerns?
So if the schedule doesn't work out, we just blame you.
That's what I'm here for.
Cliff?
Ashley, is that who you want to blame?
I'm sorry, you too.
Now, so I'll take any feedback, you know, after this is done, and be happy to rework things.
Don?
I like the idea of using the questions. I mean, I guess it's the obvious. We should have already been using the questions to qualify and to potentially whittle down the list.
Mm-hmm.
I think it may also be prudent that when on the application or something, have some kind of, not disclaimer, but emphasize to them that the filling out the questionnaire is an important part of the process. It just sort of, that should be obvious for anybody applying, but I don't know that it always is, because you get a lot of blanks.
Yeah, they don't put as much information because they're thinking it's just short and.
Right, and they're just gonna, but
Right.
like emphasize that's, basically you could disqualify yourself if you don't give it a good look.
In essence, it's like your resume.
Right.
And you're not gonna leave big blanks in your resume, because you won't be selected for an interview.
Right.
It's-
I think just pointing that out, I think may
No,
just emphasize it.
Very helpful. Thank you.
Kevin?
I just want to say Don's really smart because he said just about exactly what I was going to say, so well done on that. But also, I just wanted to applaud you, you and Sarah, for expanding this, and I say expanding some of the orientation and things like that, but also condensing that timeline so it is more efficient and better for the citizens. I think that's going to be a real highlight of this. So thank you for your works on it. I think it looks great.
John?
So during the interview time, I know that we talked about a lot of people complain about waiting too long.
Mm-hmm.
How's that going to be addressed?
So, my next step in this was to offer 3 to 4 kind of targeted questions to assist you all during your interviews. That way that you're learning a lot about these candidates within a very short amount of time, and to determine whether or not they are best suited to serve on this board. So I hadn't necessarily gotten to that part of it just yet, but we want to look at the application and make sure that we're asking the right questions.
Is it possible to put time slots that they could check off, prefer time slot, and then that way they don't have to come and sit at, if it's first come, first served, they could be here for a long time. But maybe prefer time slot where they could come at a certain time, and hopefully the interview will be done by that time. And
That would help with the experience.
Yeah.
That's a great suggestion.
And just one, I was going to hold off, sorry. Something similar to that's been tried, and when people don't show up, council members are there till 9 o'clock at night with nobody there because.
I get it.
So just be aware that if you're comfortable with that, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
They're not being picked then. We're waiting for
I think the first come, first serve is the best way to do it. I mean, we've been through the other way, and I'm not sitting around 9 o'clock waiting until somebody to show up.
That's been tried before?
Yes,
And it's been-
yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And since I'm not doing it, it'd be nice to be able to count on scheduled times, but unfortunately, people just don't respect the slot and they don't come. I tend to agree with Mark.
Or if they come and there's a whole bunch of people waiting, maybe you could ask them to come back at a certain time too. You know for a fact you have so many people you got to interview for so much of time, rather than waiting out there. I mean, that was a complaint, right? That took a long time.
The wait times.
Yeah.
Some of that was some of the contributions from the interviewees.
Interviewees?
Some of the interviewees went long.
Well, some of the interviewers went long too. So.
Don?
John, you were saying give everybody a time slot, like a specific time slot?
Yeah.
Well, one variation of that is you could do a group,
Yeah.
like you come in this hour or this hour and sort of limit it that way. But I agree. I knew we tried a bunch of different things over the years, and a lot of people won't show. So,
In reference to the questions that you're creating, these are suggested questions. You won't be offended if we ignore them?
No, sir.
Because I'm going to do the questions that I want to do, quite
Well,
frankly.
And I believe that there are targeted questions that you would prefer to ask if you were interviewing for certain boards. So absolutely, I understand that.
Yeah.
These would just be suggestions for you.
And she's not done, she's gonna be back with us on this topic again, so this is not, she's still developing the whole system, so it's not, we're not done yet. Kevin?
I thought you'll probably already on top of this, but when you are developing those questions, I would definitely love feedback from people that already serve on those boards, already, because I think they're gonna have a better idea of what the scope of the work is, the scale of what it takes. I think their feedback would be valuable for you while you're going through that process.
Thank you.
They live it.
Bijou?
Yeah, Ashley, what type of marketing you did to get attention of 52 people?
So we did email campaigns, social media, website. We also had some signs placed at city buildings that advertised the board openings.
Did you advertise on Coppell Gazette or any newspapers?
Yes, we did.
Okay, I saw that, that's why I asked.
Yes, I'm so sorry, I forgot about that.
So one of the things that she's gonna do is she's learned from this recent success, and she's gonna be following that forward. So Kevin?
Yeah, just last thing on the marketing is, obviously those numbers seem really big, but that's probably drastically larger than like maybe the last time we applied for those, because like legal counsel's only been one person for a while, right?
We've never received this many applications for those boards.
Do you think that it's because it was like a standalone or a one-off, or it's like maybe some new and shiny, because council just did this, so?
Possibly. I mean, it was in the media, so people were aware that we were creating new boards. And I think there might be something to the summer advertisement. Maybe some people saw it more than they would in late August and September, because that's typically when we start advertising for the process.
Thank you for all your work on that.
Yeah, thanks.
is there by chance, and this may be for the rest of the council, like a number, if we have 4 open slots, is there a target, not that you have to be here by the number, but is there sort of a target number of people you ought to interview? I mean, like 3 times the number, or, and I know that can vary, but, if you needed to whittle it down, just whoever you thought was qualified on the list.
When I was doing it, Mark and Cliff can add, I would take a look at the candidates, how qualified they were. I really would look at their write-ups, and if I felt that we had, 2 positions or 1 position, we had 4 very strongly qualified candidates, I'd just take the 4 that were really strongly qualified.
Okay.
I mean, but it had to be very, apparent. There were some times when we'd do a bunch more because it wasn't so clear.
Yeah.
And then there was numerous times that you'd get somebody that you really were expecting to come in strong, and interview just didn't go that well.
Yeah. I was just curious because it was like, even on Smart City, we've already run through 3 people that have vacated. So we had to have sort of a backup list. Enough people on the backup list to keep appointing. And that may be an outlier. This year may be an outlier, but we had to have those in reserve to appoint from.
Have we done any kind of exit interviews for people who've stepped down? I mean, obviously some people, have work issues or their job changes or they move. But have we seen people that are unhappy with the process?
This is the first time that I'm aware of that we've done any sort of outreach. So no, to answer your question, no. We've not done any exit interviews.
And no, through let's just say the last 12 months, typically they've provided a reason why they're stepping away, and that's been provided to y'all. So we didn't have to ask them, they told us.
Just thinking about, to cut the wait time, I know a lot of places, like restaurant, they text you when your time's coming up, and so they don't have to hang around here, wait 30 minutes, and just,
Feedback is good.
Anything else for Ashley? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll hear again from you in July?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
go home.
Okay, last item, E, discussion regarding the attendance policy. Now, we don't have to do this tonight. We said that several months ago, and we got caught this month with one that hit us. So, you know, it's the pleasure of the council. What would you guys, I mean, we've talked about a bunch of things. I believe that you are the appointing body and it needs to be your decision. And so how that needs to happen, whether someone is vacated or not, I think needs to come to the council. And then the appointment of the replacement also needs to be done by the council. We've done that administratively based on the interview process that you guys go through. And there's usually a first alternate and a second alternate. And Ashley's always just moved the next person up, which that's been done on consent agenda numerous times. That seems to work quite well when a person resigns. But if you have an attendance policy where the position is vacated, it's a little different.
But even that situation, you would have alternate 1 and 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't they automatically fill in, or?
Well, they should, yes.
Just to clarify, automatically in the sense it still takes council action.
Yeah, and it's typically done on consent agenda.
But basically, you're saying they're next in line.
Right.
When we all act on that.
But
They're the
It
next person in
takes
line.
the council to make that point.
If we don't do anything with our attendance policy,
Are you talking about excuse, unexcused?
if we
Or
don't
what
do
are you
it,
talking about?
I'm saying if we do nothing with our existing policy, Mr. Catham will be vacated.
So
Kevin?
So I know you said something earlier about, right now, it's virtually, I mean, it's automatic, like there was a suggestion about some language saying that, the council would have to remove them.
Mm-hmm.
Would y'all be interested in adding that to the language?
That,
That a council action has removed the person? Will we write it in there?
Yeah, I agreed with the mayor on that.
that was my suggestion.
I'm
And
down.
that way, it would bring the discussion to the council. You guys would say, yes, this is an excused absence, or yes, I believe this, or to John's point, I don't think he was fulfilling the role due to previous absences. I mean, you could have that discussion. Right now, there is no, I'm sorry, there's really not a discussion.
And are we adding on what Bob had recommended last time with the excused and unexcused? Are we still, is that gonna be incorporated with what we're talking about today, or is that just
It
completely
should.
separate?
Shouldn't it be the
That's what
same
they're asking
across
us.
everything?
We'll only take into consideration what you tell us to take into consideration. So if you tell us just to do what the mayor suggested, that's the language that we'll prepare. If you tell us to go back to Bob's language, that's what will be presented.
I don't remember exactly what Bob said.
Those were the excused,
Excuse, non-excuse.
unexcused.
But it was still 3, correct? Like 3 total absences, but we could categorize them as excused or unexcused, so we had more information. And if we had that information,
Yeah, what you're doing is interpreting the charter. The charter says 3 absences. So you would write the ordinance to say if an absence is excused, it will not count towards the charter 3 absences.
But you still need to make the determination.
But you have to,
yes.
see, the way the charter is written now, it's self-executing. So when you come to council with the agenda item tonight, that's a ministerial duty. You have to do it. You don't have discretion. What the mayor has suggested, what I'm suggesting, would give you discretion to excuse absences so they don't violate charter and be removed automatically.
Gives you
without
the
any
choice
debate.
to accept.
But I would also suggest to this board that there is value in that person being there on a regular basis to continue the work. So where is that balance of excusing someone if an emergency that's kind of was outlined to us does come up versus, them not actually being there to get the work done? I think that that's a fine line, and I would love to know what you guys think, maybe where that line might be, because if you meet once a month and you have 3 or 4 excused absences, and you're not technically
Half a year.
Yeah, you're missing half a year because work keeps coming up. Can you do your best work?
Yeah, and now you have Zoom meetings too.
Yeah.
You can actually, board of commission can have a Zoom meeting, or does that count or not count? You don't have any rules with regard to what's excused or unexcused or participatory or non-participatory. And so you're left with, if you're not there 3 times, boom, the charter's self-executing, they're out, that's it. And so we wanted to at least give you an opportunity. I mean, especially with COVID, people did get sick, people were unavailable, things got different. And we want to at least, you have the debate, do you want that discretion, and if so, what does it look like? Because I think we gave you a definition of excused absence that Ashley provided to you last time. So that's just a debate you all have to have.
So are you saying that currently, if they're attending the meeting via Zoom, they're still counted as absent?
There's no rule. So it's arbitrary, isn't it?
Well,
No
I mean,
rule.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. Do they count or not count, or should they count, or, that's, because the Open Meetings Act does apply to certain boards and commissions, but not all of them. The library board doesn't count, art board doesn't count.
Probably just the planning and
Forest
zoning
board
and
doesn't count.
probably planning and zoning and board of
adjustment,
adjustments and CRDC.
CRDC.
Oh, by the way, we need to check our CRDC. I don't think there's an attendance policy in the code for that.
Yeah, when you get done with whatever rules you want us to do, we're gonna bring all those back, remember? So
Yes.
Cliff had a-
Bijou's request, that
Yes.
we put all the appointments
Consistent.
in one section.
Cliff had a comment, question.
Yeah, I think coming out of these boards and commissions, this question should be presented to us, the council, by whomever the staff person is that's responsible for the meetings. And we are the ones that make the decision as to whether or not it's an excused absence, based on the facts. So we get the request from the liaison with the facts, and we take the facts and we make the decision as to whether it qualifies as an excused absence.
You want to give some guidelines on what an excused absence would be, or is what Ashley provided okay?
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, it's everyone's going to be obviously different. There's going to be a different reason, I had COVID, couldn't get out of the bed, I mean.
That's lousy.
Lousy excuse?
Yeah.
Okay.
Be there.
Kevin?
I wanted Cliff to clarify, were you saying you want every excuse, or every absence to be excused by the council?
No, if it's excused, if they are pushing back that this, I missed, but this is the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think so. I think we can.
I'm hearing that.
Remember, you have absolute control.
That's how I hear it.
I want to make sure that I hear, yes, I want to make sure that that's what I'm hearing as well. Yes.
It were only if you had hit your quota of 3 absences, then you would review the.
And there's no reason to review before that.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect. I like it.
Bijou?
Yeah, so what I discussed with the mayor today is, doesn't matter what reason was, if you miss 3 meetings, that person will come to the city council agenda item, and we will examine what was the reason they missed. if we determine, 4 people are determined that they missed because of emergency reason or excusable reason, then we keep them. If we don't, we kick them out.
So when you keep them, does that number disappear? And what happens then?
No, if they miss again, then we need
Is
to
that-
make a
is that
decision.
the third one?
Do they come back to us and we
It
make
says
another?
3 meetings within a 12-month period,
Right.
or 25% of the meetings for the board.
So I'm saying, if
Right
they
now.
miss 3.
It's possible, under your scenario, it's
Right.
possible.
They can
Yeah, it's
come back.
possible.
They can
Once you
come
get
back
on the
7
naughty list, you
times.
come back every month when you make your 3rd one.
Right.
So we excuse this one, and then next month you miss, now you're back at 3 again, now you gotta come and see Bijou.
Right, that's right, he's the one.
But I guess to Kevin's earlier point, you know, if somebody's gonna miss 6 meetings out of a year, what good are they doing even if they are excused?
But you don't
No, by
You-
that time we
You
will.
have the right, I know, you told me to write in every one of these boards,
Yep.
you can be dismissed without cause.
That's right. Kevin?
We do want that.
Just trying to understand some historical perspective, how many times has somebody hit the three, without maybe resigning? How many times has it come to the agenda for them to be dismissed? Maybe,
Very seldom. Like, during COVID was the first time I remember it happening.
Well, you would hope by that time, if they're not able to commit, then they should know themselves to leave themselves.
Do you guys remember anybody ever coming up because of absence?
people normally just resign, right?
Yeah.
If they're having those conflicts.
No, we've had a bunch of
They should
resignations.
know.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, most people resign, it's been my experience while I've been here. Once they reach 3, then she reaches out to them and they go, yeah, I was fine, I didn't come, they resign.
All right,
But we want to.
I think I've said everything.
Oh, I thought you had your hand up.
No, but I think that we need to be the ones to be the bad guys. And so they can, so the liaison and the guy, if they can't get together on the deal, or when they get together with it, to determine we need to go to the council with this particular situation, and they'll be able to go to the council with this. And we'll be the bad guys.
Don?
I had thought about, so we don't get into a discussion all the time, like if you get to the 3rd one, you know, maybe given an excuse to give you, you know, one more absence after that or something. Does anybody else have any concern about debating the reasons why somebody is absent in a public forum? Is that of anybody else's? That gives me a little bit of pause, I guess, that this is all public and we will be sitting here discussing if someone was sick or, you know, who knows what reason might have come up, like, you know, something that maybe someone doesn't want in public record. Am I the only one that's got that concern that this is public record? I guess so. Sounds like
Well,
it is.
we did check, and, because we were trying to, I had originally asked for this discussion to be in executive session, and according to Bob, since this is an appointed position, we can't conduct a review of attendance in executive session, so it has to be done publicly.
For all boards except P&Z, CRDC, Board of Adjustment, because they're statutorily appointed, you could put them on the agenda for an executive session. Library Board, Ford Board, Smart Board, they're not officers under state law and therefore do not have protection of the exemption to the Open Meetings Act.
My concern was just a privacy issue, a familiar problem that maybe they told somebody, you know, told staff, but then it makes its way into here and becomes public. That's what I was most concerned about.
You haven't figured out you gave away your privacy law?
Well, I know I did, but, you know, someone who's talking to staff may not.
Yeah,
realize
Are
that.
they gonna have 3 privacy issues?
I'm just
I'm
saying,
just telling you.
if they don't want their dirty laundry aired, they can just resign.
Well,
I mean, like, you know, if they're like, well, I don't
agreed.
want.
I guess I just make sure everybody's aware of that.
Kevin?
Just thinking about
I
the
think
process.
No, that's.
You had your hand up.
No, that's what I was gonna say, it was just,
Wouldn't we know the reason before we actually discuss it? Could be kind of discreet about that, by the time we get into discussion?
I mean, I would hope so, I just would hate for something to, I was just curious if anybody else had that concern. Potentially,
They could provide it to you in writing ahead of time if they felt it was a personal matter. But at the end of the day, it's gotta be a public record because transparency.
I just want to make sure they're aware of that piece, that it may come out here if we're going to discuss it.
You can be discreet while you're in here, but if they even put something so you have the information, so you understand
Right.
why they were absent,
Yeah.
that document after you meet, I think is probably a public record. That- I can assert personal privacy issues and some other things with the Attorney General's office.
Yeah.
Hopefully, they would feel the same way if there was something appropriate that should not be disclosed,
Yeah.
but it might be.
Okay.
Are you concerned with the people admitting they got COVID-19?
Because all they have to do is
Well,
say-
Instead they say communicable disease.
Well, I mean, it could be any number of things, I guess, or any other medical
No, I
condition.
hear you.
Or a family issue that they revealed to someone
To be brought back.
that some unfortunately gets transmitted back in
Okay.
here.
So-
I had an anxiety attack.
Yeah, before, so one way to help in that conversation though, if he drafts the language where we provided a definition of excused absence, it'll be detailed in that, so they could use, based on the definition, this is one of the
Choose
criteria,
that one.
right, choose
Yeah.
that one, and that way, because it's already defined for you. And then, based on what I heard, at least what I think I heard, is everybody's supportive of the way that Cliff kind of presented it. We can have. you kind of-
Yeah, I don't need, you don't need to know more than you need to know. So
Right.
if you said I have a medical situation which required my attendance at the hospital, I don't need to know why you went to the
Right.
hospital. But if someone saw you over at Smashburger at the same time you're supposed to be at the hospital, that's a different issue.
Yeah, right. But, so we can draft something up for y'all.
Before they went to the hospital.
That's why they went to the hospital.
After.
So.
They had one of the big ones.
Right.
They were good.
Okay, Kevin?
we're good on that piece?
Yep.
I do want to bring up the talk about Zoom attendance, because that was asked. So, I mean, there's no guidelines currently, right? I think that we should allow people to attend Zoom if they can't make it in person. It's just the way that the world is working.
There are some restrictions, because the same as yours.
On certain,
On P and Z,
you have to have
Board of
the,
Adjustment.
you have to have the in-person quorum, right?
Right. Well, and also I'd like to be able to get back with you, because where we hold our meetings, I want to
Make sure technology's available.
make sure the technology
Understood.
is supportive, because you still may want to do that, that's fine. I have to budget for it accordingly to carry out your wishes.
Understood.
So I don't know the answer to that, and we're in the preparation of the budget right now. So I looked at Jared to say, get with all my departments and say, when you have a meeting, is it
So
Zoomable?
let's let them go off and
I would
look at
love more information on
Yes.
that, absolutely.
And Jared will be back immediately.
No, not immediately.
Well, sometime before next year.
Well, as part of the budget process, my point being is if that's something y'all want us to do, we have to budget accordingly. If there are facilities that need it.
Yes.
And if they are that they need it.
I definitely think we should at least take a look at it. We're moving that way as a society, so I'd love to look at it and see.
Okay.
Are they not able to do with Zoom with their own laptop and?
It's the meeting itself.
I think it's the recording piece and the.
There's different things that we have to
transparency
do because you're talking about creating a record.
piece. Yes.
It's not just as simple as opening up the computer top for us.
Trying to save money.
I understand what you're trying to do, but welcome to the public world of,
Government.
yeah, it's keeping Bob happy to make sure we're legal.
All right. Guys, thank you very much for the discussion tonight. Anybody have anything else on this topic? Well, we are at the end of work session. The time is 9:05 p.m. We are adjourned from work session, and we're going to move out to the council chambers and adjourn the meeting.
Gotta go shut that meeting down.
Good evening, everybody. The time is 9:07 PM. We have adjourned from work session. We are reconvening into the regular session of the Coppell City Council. We are on item number 15. There being no further business before this council, we are adjourned at 9:07 PM.